MRN Radio presents the NASCAR Cup Series. Today, practice and pole qualifying for the Goodyear 400 from Darlington Raceway. Presented on MRN by E3 Spark Plugs. Powerful and fuel efficient. Find E3 at your nearest auto parts store.
Welcome to Darlington Raceway in South Carolina. It's Throwback Weekend, and Motor Racing Network is at the track Too Tough to Tame as we get set for practice and qualifying for Sunday's Goodyear 400. I'm Mike Bagley alongside Alex Hayden. Alex, we are privileged to go to many different racetracks over the course of a season. We're also privileged to be at this very racetrack where we can embrace today, but also embrace races and drivers of yesteryear.
It's living history here at Darlington Raceway as we come here in the present day with race cars poised to go on the racetrack, race fans in the grandstands. But the history part of it speaks for itself. It has its own soul when you come on the property here. As a matter of fact, when you're coming up the road that the backstretch sits adjacent to and you see the lights that are right outside turn number 2, right up against the street there, it really is something special. But when you step a toe on the property here, this place has its own soul.
These drivers are about to put their race cars on the racetrack. Let's go trackside and hear from a couple of them. First, we go to Steve Post of Halstead, Pennsylvania.
A driver that has really good history over the last couple of weeks with a pair of third-place finishes is Bubba Wallace, and coming to a track has been awful good at as well. Bubba, what are you looking for in this practice session here today? What would make it a good session for you?
Being fast again and talking to you guys after practice.
There we go.
I think just getting into a rhythm early, figuring out what we need. I feel like we always run decent here, but you hear about the 12 and the 5, and a lot of other guys kind of running the higher lane into 1 and always wait too late to try it. And so I want to move around and find stuff quick. I've been working on the sim a lot for this race to get that dialed in, but really excited for our chances. Got our really bright car back with Columbia. Hoping for another good run. It's been a good couple weeks, so got to keep it going.
You've been a driver that really second half of the season has been strong. What's this like, and how important is it for you guys to be doing second half stuff here in the first part of the season?
We got to keep it up this first half. We got to keep it up in the second half and even ramp it up more, because that's when it matters the most. But yeah, it's interesting to see how much different things are, you know, in a much better spot that we're in. Thankful to everybody on the 23 group here, making it all happen, keeping our heads in the game after we've been knocked out so many times leading up to Miami. We know what we're capable of, and we're showing it.
Absolutely. That's Bubba Wallace. Beautiful Columbia colors on his Toyota Camry.
The front half of that Columbia Toyota is purple. The back half is teal. It is a beautiful race car. Now, it is Throwback Weekend, Chris Wilner from Carmel, Indiana, and you're with a driver that is throwing it back to Texas, Terry Labonte.
That's right. It's got the old Kellogg's colors, the Tony the Tiger scheme that Terry Labonte famously ran and won here at Darlington. Now Kyle Larson, for the second straight year in a row, has Texas Terry as his honoree on Throwback Weekend. How special is this one, and what do you think? It turned out pretty good.
Yeah, it turned out awesome. It's a beautiful looking race car, so yeah, I'm obviously excited to be here in Darlington, but it's even cooler we can represent a legend like Terry Labonte. So yeah, we'll see. It should be pretty decent. You know, I feel like we're always really good here at Darlington, so try and get a good feel for it here at practice, hopefully qualify well, and have a good race tomorrow.
What are the intricacies of going fast at Darlington with all the unknowns, riding the wall, and obviously both ends are completely different?
Yeah, both ends are way different, but it takes a big level of commitment, but also a lot of patience to get around here. So weighing the patience and all that is important, but I don't know, it's always been a track that's suited me, so yeah, we'll hope that it does the same this weekend.
It's Kyle Larson, 2023 Southern 500 winner, the entire Hendrick Motorsports group, all throwing it back here on Throwback Weekend at Darlington.
Total of 38 cars on the entry list. They have been broken up into 2 groups. Group 1 is about to enter the racetrack, and we'll tell you who those drivers are when we come back. From Darlington Raceway, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
You've never been one to idly watch someone else do something for you. There's pride in self-reliance, in working with your hands, in harnessing the power of an E3 spark plug with Diamond Fire technology yielding better engine performance. You have a choice to make. Take control of your ride, of your life, or be the passenger princess of it. Visit e3sparkplugs.com to put the power in your hands.
Start your engine!
The NASCAR Xfinity Series races here.
Green flag is in the air, and they're playing bumper cars already as they race off in turn 1 by a fender. It's Cole Custer.
All the exciting play-by-play and lap-by-lap action.
Austin Hill to the bottom. He'll go to second. Big block from top to bottom by Jeffy Lowe.
The voice of NASCAR, the Motor Racing Network.
Shane Van Gisbergen up the front stretch. The New Zealander wins at Portland International Raceway.
Back at Darlington Raceway, NASCAR Cup Series practice underway for Sunday's Goodyear 400. Total of 19 drivers can hop on the racetrack right now, Alex, for 25 minutes of practice.
Austin Hill is in this group. J.J. Yaley is in this group as well. You've got Eric Jones, Shane Van Gisbergen, Cole Custer, Riley Herbst, Cody Ware, Noah Gregson, Austin Cindric, among others.
Josh Berry is in this group, along with Justin Haley, Brad Keselowski, John Hunter Nemechek, A.J. Allmendinger, Carson Hocevar, Daniel Suarez, Austin Dillon, Alex Bowman, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. If you did not hear your favorite driver's name, they are in Group 2, which we will be on the track about 30 minutes from now.
As we put the opening laps on the board here, it is Throwback Weekend. There is a lot of really, really good paint schemes in Throwback. We've already heard about the Tony the Tiger throwback for Kyle Larson. Well, on the racetrack, there's a couple of them right now that are just attention grabbers to me. One of them is the Wood Brothers. And anytime the Wood Brothers come out here, let's be honest, they can just show up at the racetrack and be their own throwback no matter what they did. But this time, their Ford Mustang Dark Horse is dark green. It's got some yellow on it, white with a black number inside the white circle. This is a throwback to the 1965 Indianapolis 500 winning Team Lotus, driven by Scotsman Jimmy Clark in this tribute car. Why? Well, it's because the Wood Brothers had a very integral part in winning the Indy 500 that year.
They were the pit crew for Jim Clark that day, and it is with that effort that the choreographed pit stop began. They took that to Indianapolis, had success with it. It obviously is a mainstay in NASCAR, Alex, and it's been reviewed and refined over the years to give us what we have today.
Really remarkable in the way that turned out. Yes, that was an Indy car, and in 65 they still had front engine Watson Roadsters running Indianapolis type racing and in the Indianapolis 500, but they had started moving to the rear engine, much lower based car with the center of gravity, and that's what ended up winning. As a matter of fact, that's the first year a rear engine car won the Indianapolis 500 in 1965. So how was that going to translate? When I was hearing that that's the type of tribute they wanted to do, I was a little confused how that would look on a big full-fendered stock car. Mike, it is spectacular.
It's a beautiful paint scheme. And by the way, the Wood Brothers have 8 wins here at Darlington Raceway. 6 of them came with David Pearson. 1 came with Cale Yarborough. And their last came with Neil Bonnet back in 1981. By the way, that's 15,918 days or 43 years and 7 months. And by the way, that race-winning car is on display behind the main grandstand next to the NASCAR Experience. I've just spun around taking a look at it right there. Hodgson on the quarter panels, the legendary number 21 driven by Neil Bonnet on display, along with a lot of other classic race cars. Every generation of race car is being represented. If you're coming to Darlington tomorrow or maybe later today, take a swing through there and check out all those classic race cars. Tim Richmond's legendary Folgers car, the number 17 bright orange Tide Chevrolet that Darrell Waltrip won the Daytona 500 in. You've also got an old Dave Marcus car. You've got Dale Jarrett's championship winning cars. You've got Junior Johnson's old number 3. You've got every generation of race car represented on display here at Darlington this weekend.
Right now, 7 laps go up on the board for these drivers who are here in Group A getting practice in. The fastest single lap speed, that belongs to Carson Hocevar. He's gone to the top of the leaderboard. Josh Berry in that Wood Brothers Ford is second quick. And what about the driver that is third in the Toyota? Eric Jones is up to third now in single lap speeds,
with Austin Cindric and Justin Haley rounding out the top 5. Postman, this is a very interesting practice to a degree. Not a lot of time to adjust on the cars. They've only got one set of tires. So what are these teams focusing in on right now?
Yeah, and really, Mike, had a chance to talk to crew chief Adam Stevens for Christopher Bell about that this morning. And the goal here is to have the car good enough so you don't have to stop. Let's work on a long run to see what the tire speed degradation is on that car. Because the challenge is this. With the one set of tires, which are the one on the car, you can come in and make a change, but the car is going to be ill handling on worn out tires with that change. And Adam said so many times they've seen themselves and others just go down a rabbit hole with making changes during these practice. So I would be shocked if a car comes in and makes major changes. That means it's almost undrivable and they've got major changes to do. But I think most of these cars are going to run the full 25 minutes and try to see what the speed fall off is and what the tendencies of the tires are over a long run.
It is rather warm here in Darlington, South Carolina here today, much like the forecast will be for tomorrow. Currently it's 83 degrees, forecasted to get up to 86 degrees here later on this afternoon. Tomorrow the forecasted high 89 degrees. So Chris Wilner, that typical South Carolina heat, humidity, sunshine beating down on the track, tires that wear out. These teams have their hands full here this weekend.
They certainly do, but it's a recipe, Alex, for what I think is going to be really good racing when it comes tomorrow, because you talked to a lot of these drivers earlier this weekend and they said it's typical Darlington. When it gets hot and slick, it just puts so much more into the driver's hands and what more they can do behind the wheel. Yes, the car setup is going to be key, and chasing the racetrack, which is another term we'll hear often this weekend in terms of how these teams make adjustments to what the racetrack is doing. But Chase Briscoe was pretty honest about it this morning in the media center and said this racetrack's awesome because it puts the drivers more in control. What can we do to maximize the car over the course of a long stint when it's hot and slick outside? So it's going to be a fun one for sure tomorrow. Right now, teams like Steve Post mentioned just going to get a good idea of where they're at. But the other thing to keep in mind, too, is this first group is going to be the earlier group to qualify, which could be a little bit at a deficit to what the Group 2 drivers will see once we get cars out on the racetrack. So these Group 1 drivers just trying to maximize the track time here on their set of tires. But Darlington is fun when it is hot and slick like it is.
Had a couple of conversations in the garage this morning, Alex, about Group 1 cars. First of all, this track is not really rubbered in. The Xfinity Series has had some practice, and they've qualified earlier this morning. Our race broadcast of those cars coming up later this afternoon. But as far as the Cup cars are concerned, you're going to go out there, you're going to set a fast lap. But you don't really have a true idea of what you can expect in the race because there's so much grip in the racetrack. The fall off is that much more pronounced. The Group 2 cars are at a tremendous advantage as opposed to the Group 1 cars as far as finding out what their car can do over a longer haul and over a well-rubbered racetrack. By the time they get on the track, they will have more to work with as far as knowing what to expect later in the race tomorrow.
Yeah, you're right about that. And something else to factor in, after we get done with the 2 25-minute practice sessions, we'll have a short 10-minute break before we go out qualifying. And in that 10-minute break, the wind is blowing rather significantly as we look at the big American flag between turns 3 and 4. And in this region, this is part of the Sand Hills region from North Carolina that spans down here to the part of South Carolina, just past the border where we are. And there's a lot of sand that blows around in the air. You might not feel it as you're just walking along, but when the track sits idle and there are not cars on it, with all the air that they stir up and blowing debris off the track, there's a lot of little particles of sand that get on this racetrack. So the first few cars that go out are the ones that have to deal with that. The track is much slicker, but then once you get some rubber on it, then things begin to change a little bit more. We hear our championship-winning crew chief, Todd Gordon, who will be with us Sunday for our broadcast, describe it all the time, that you lay the rubber down, but when you slow things down, those tires pick that rubber right back up.
Right now it's 83 degrees. To Alex's point, winds blowing 13 miles an hour, gusting to 20 miles an hour, and it's coming from turn 4 to turn 2. So getting a bit of a nose wind down the backstretch, bit of a tailwind going into turn number 1, but with that wind, it's made it very comfortable. Just stepped outside a few moments ago. It's a beautiful day in Darlington. We expect the same tomorrow. And of course, earlier in the week, they had said, well, we may have an opportunity for some showers on Sunday. There's a system that's supposed to roll through here now late Sunday night and into Monday. So it doesn't look like wet weather will be a concern for us here today and tomorrow.
No, it's going to be absolutely beautiful. A little warm, yes, maybe a little warmer than it typically is. Trouble in turn 2. We got one car that spun around over there. John Hunter Nemechek has spun his car up off of turn number 2 down to the apron of the racetrack. He's throwing it back on his paint scheme to his dad, Joe Nemechek, in the 1998 Bell South paint scheme when he drove for Felix Sabatis. But John Hunter Nemechek and that Legacy Motor Club Toyota goes for a spin. Doesn't look like he hit anything as he's refired the car and will drive away.
That's one of the many nuances here at Darlington. It looks like John Hunter spun in one of the unique cornering characteristics at Darlington. If you follow the cars down the front stretch, when they go into turn 1, they dip down onto the apron, and then they jet up the banking, and then they begin to rim ride the wall through 1 and 2. As you come to the entrance of turn 2, you cut the car back to the bottom, and then swing it wide up against the wall coming off the corner. Looks like John Hunter got caught up in all of that, spinning his car to the inside. But the good news is, Alex, no Darlington stripes on that, what is sponsored today, Dollar Tree machine, obviously throwing back to the Bell South days for his father.
Yeah, he did scuff up the right side of the looks like the right rear corner, just got a little nick of the wall. But that puts us under the red flag here on practice number 1 of 2 different practices, 2 different groups. Right now, Carson Hocevar continues to be the fastest from Darlington Raceway. This is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Don't miss a moment of the NASCAR season.
Chastain drove it and never lifted. Put it against the safer barrier and all the way around the turn. Passes Denny Hamlin.
Check out the Motor Racing Network's coverage of the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, the NASCAR Xfinity Series, and the NASCAR Cup Series on hundreds of local radio stations around the country. Find your local station by going to mrn.com to catch the excitement of NASCAR on the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Feel like you're in the driver's seat and never miss a second of the race action with Racing Electronics. Racing Electronics scanners allow you to listen in on uncensored audio from your favorite drivers, spotters, and crews the entire race. Hear team strategy with critical passes, dangerously close calls, and all the pit stop drama. To learn more, visit them at racingelectronics.com. Be race ready. Be RE equipped.
Welcome back to Darlington Raceway. John Hunter Nemechek spinning off of turn number 2, taking his car back to the pit area. Steve Post, what's the latest down there with John Hunter Nemechek?
Well, the good news, and you guys established this, he did not hit anything solid out there. That's the good news. So no damage on the car, the body, the fenders, or the bumpers or anything on it. And what John Hunter Nemechek has told his crew is that the car just was loose, and it was just getting progressively looser, and he was just working hard, hustling that race car, trying to make as much time as he could, and he said, I just got into a spot where it stepped out. So literally a loose handling race car can step out from under even a quality driver like John Hunter Nemechek. So they're pretty happy with it. They said the speeds were pretty good on the car. Now they're worried about flat spotted tires, of course. But John Hunter Nemechek, the good news is he saved the race car, and I think their baseline, they feel pretty good about their baseline on the race car as well.
Right now, John Hunter 11th on the leaderboard of the 19 cars that are on the racetrack. Mentioned a moment ago how the garage has been broken up into two groups. The advantages of Group 2 over Group 1. Well, let's zero in on Hendrick Motorsports. It seems like one driver in particular there, Chris, is in charge of some heavy lifting here in this first group.
Yeah, Mike, and that's Alex Bowman, who continues to sit here on the pit lane. He was a part of this first group during the first run, but was very unhappy with the race car. He came over the radio to his crew chief, Blake Harris, and said, I'm just tight all over, especially into turn 1, but I feel like I have drive with the rear of the cars. So there is a positive for this Ally group as they throw back their throwback scheme is to Jimmy Johnson in the win at Darlington that brought Hendrick Motorsports its 200th win. But right now they're continuing to go to work. Now, you mentioned the dynamic. The other 3 Hendrick cars all are in group number 2. So Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, and William Byron are just next to me here in the first 4 stalls in pit road, all plugged into the Warren wagons, listening to the communications, not only with their teammate Alex Bowman, but also plugging in on maybe what they need to do in terms of what Alex is feeling so far in this run, and maybe if they need to make any adjustments. So it's all hands on deck. Just because you're in Group 2 doesn't mean you get a little relaxation break. You're plugged in, ready to go, trying to see what you need to do when it's your turn to hit the racetrack. But yeah, you're right. Alex Bowman, the guinea pig, as he's down and away after some adjustments.
Tires just simply get eaten up by this racetrack that is so difficult. It's got not one but 2 nicknames in the track that is too tough to tame. They also call it the Lady in Black. And after these drivers go out and put their fast laps down, either their first or second lap, after that, things begin to slow down drastically. Carson Hocevar's the fastest single lap time. Well, he's run 22 laps. His 22nd lap was 2 seconds slower than his fastest lap.
The joke was you don't even want to push the car to pit road because you'll lose 2/10 of these tires. Very, very abrasive surface. This track was repaved about a decade or so ago, and over time and baking in this South Carolina sun, and also being weathered by the freeze and thaw of South Carolina winters, it really takes abuse with the aggregate that is laid down here at this racetrack. We get what we've got. But we've always had this in Darlington. We're in the Sandhills. Very abrasive is what Alex described earlier. But the drivers love it. We love it. And you really get to see driver skills put on display. Those that can save their tires. Those that can save their equipment, Postman.
Yeah, and we just had, you guys referenced it, and I think it bears repeating. We talk a lot of times when we have a caution during one of these practice what the refire speed is, and that's what it is. And you guys are absolutely right. It's like 2 seconds slower is what it is. I was listening to Josh Berry's radio, and they said, look, this is not going to be good. What is different a lot of weeks, like Todd Gordon preaches to us, okay, let's learn what refire speed is. Darlington is not really a track where you're probably going to deal with that. 22 laps on a run, you are likely going to come down, and good tires as far as the race goes. There's a lot of tires, 10 new tires for the race tomorrow. So the idea of fall-off speed or picking back up speed is kind of a rare thing here at Darlington. Yeah, I guess in theory we could run out of tires or someone can stay out, but the likelihood of staying out on 22-lap tires here at Darlington is slim to none, and that's kind of making sure it doesn't trip the teams up with this getting back up to speed here in this practice session with that caution period.
So Posty mentioned 4 tires tomorrow, and in talking to all the crew chiefs that we did this morning, I was asking them the question, so what's the strategy playbook like? And almost as if someone had stolen their puppy, like, that's 4 tires every time. Almost like a tool has been taken away. If you go 2 tires at Darlington, you're probably going to need some intervention because you're never going to put 2 tires on at Darlington. It's always 4 tires, Sunoco Racing Fuel, back out onto the racetrack. And that play has been taken out of that playbook. So I also asked, well, how many, you're going to run out of tires before you run out of fuel. about 45 laps is about the max. You may stretch it to 50 or 55, but for the most part, the tires are going to be giving up in short order.
Yeah, they are, and this is a difficult racetrack because you have to manage the tires. You have to do those types of things, but as a crew chief, yeah, it does. It kind of takes a little bit of the fun out of it as a crew chief. All you simply have to do is come down every time you have the opportunity, put on 4 fresh tires, and put Sunoco fuel in the race car as well. So that's a tool that, to your point, Mike, has been taken away. Now, I was watching Shane Van Gisbergen. Came off turn 4 just a moment ago and got into the outside wall. He got very slow going around the track. He's on the pit lane now, and you can see down the right side of that white, red, and blue car, it's scuffed up pretty good down there.
Yeah, he's backing that in. The crew is going to take a look at it, but Shane Van Gisbergen having some challenges, 16th of the 19 cars that have run so far. Chris, there are so many nuances to racing at Darlington. We talk about the line, we talk about running the wall, but there's also another nuance to consider here as well.
There is, Mike, and just listening to the radio, a lot of the chatter going on is about lift points. Remember, at each of these long straightaways, you got to get these cars back down, especially into turn number 3, and we've seen several drivers in Xfinity practice and qualifying overstep and hit the wall in turn 3. I actually was listening to Austin Hill's radio. Remember, he's making his first Cup start of the year for Richard Childress Racing with his former Xfinity crew chief, Andy Street. They're trying to get him out of his Xfinity habit, saying these Cup cars drive a little bit different, and we want Austin to drive a little bit deeper into the corner, and he's not the only one. Justin Haley also being told about changing up the lift point. So it's not only about, obviously driving the center of the corner and off, but also how you get into the corner and managing where you get off the throttle just only helps where you can pick the throttle back up. So just interesting to hear all that goes on between spotter, crew chief, and driver over the course of practice.
Austin Hill's a driver that knows how to get around Darlington Raceway. Although in an Xfinity Series car, he's finished top 10 in all 7 of his Xfinity starts here at the track Too Tough to Tame, including a second-place finish in the last 3 consecutive starts. But this is his first career Cup Series effort here at Darlington. And to Chris's point, these cars are just different. Everything about them is different from the Xfinity Series car. You have to adjust. You have to adapt your driving style.
Watching Josh Berry come off the banking in turns 3 and 4. He'll bring that yellow and green Ford Mustang to the attention of the Wood brothers. And that's one driver, Alex, that as we look at the averages so far put up with the lap times, Josh Berry's name is starting to bubble up to the surface.
Yeah, he has. Even though he is not the number 1 driver in single lap speeds, he's not far off. He's second quick. Josh Berry right now is the best on the long consecutive averages out there. And he's just now bringing that Wood Brothers Ford to the pit lane so they can give it a once-over. I see the right side of that car is scuffed just a bit as well. I think that is just simply the norm. That's what you're going to have here at Darlington Raceway. But Josh Berry, right now, the best car on the longer consecutive lap averages.
Just watching some of the lap times and lap counts being put in. Carson Hocevar just put in his 34th lap. Josh Berry has just put in his 32nd. Meanwhile, of all those laps, the fastest lap for everybody is either lap 1 or lap 2. When you get to lap 3, 4, 5, and so on, that's when you really start to slow down. Carson Hocevar's fastest time was a 29.262. He just clocked his 34th lap, and he is now 31.798. The fall off here at Darlington, or the wear down of these tires, is mightily taking over right now as these drivers are not in hang-on mode, but they're soon getting there.
Yeah, they are. Lap 1 on fresh tires is outstanding. Lap 4, you're hanging on. Lap 15, lap 20, it's a slip and slide out there on the racetrack. And one of those drivers that slipped a little bit too far, as I mentioned earlier, was Shane Van Gisbergen. He's gotten out of that race car as the team continues to work on the right side of it. Steve Post, what types of things are they doing to that race car, and what have you heard going on with Shane Van Gisbergen?
Well, with 5 minutes left in practice, they've decided not to come out and do any more here for Shane Van Gisbergen. So what they did with the team is they came in and they looked at it, and they went up under, and we saw tape measures out and flashlights out under the right side of the car to just make sure that all the settings were good on the right side. And it looks like everything is good, although they are looking right now at the front of the car, and as a matter of fact, they're making an adjustment on the front of the race car, the toe, the pointing of the front wheels, and now they're coming to the rear wheels. So in listening to the radio and talking to some crew members, Shane just got up into the fence. It's a good old-fashioned Darlington stripe. It's throwback weekend. Others have had it happen, and Shane Van Gisbergen's the latest one. So the team is going to make sure the car is set up well. This is, again, part of the problem with old worn-out tires. You're not going to learn anything by going out. Now they need to learn and make sure that that car is in perfect shape as far as the suspension parts and pieces under it, and that's what the team is doing. Shane has gone into debrief mode with the crew chief and the rest of the folks down there.
And teams only get one set of tires for practice. That's it. So it's not like they can go do a run, come in, make changes, put another set on, and go back out. What you have is what you have, as we have 3 minutes and 13 seconds remaining in practice for Group 1. Group 2 is coming up. Carson, host of Ours the Quickest, Josh Berry, Eric Jones, Austin Cindric, Justin Haley, the top 5 in these 19 that are getting ready to button up their practice effort.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is currently 6th, Austin Dillon 7th, and Brad Keselowski 8th. Daniel Suarez 9th, Noah Gregson is listed 10th.
John Hunter Nemechek is 11th, AJ Allmendinger is 12th, Cole Custer is 13th, Alex Bowman is 14th, and Austin Hill is 15th.
16th is Shane Van Gisbergen, 17th is Riley Herbst, Cody Ware is 18th, and J.J. Yaley is 19th. Yes, these are the single lap speeds, and no one's going to get quicker. They get one set of tires for practice, and as we've been talking about here in this opening 20 minutes of this session, those tires are gone. Those things are worn out.
If you get faster at this part of practice, you're probably going to need to park it at the NASCAR hauler because they're going to want to take a peek.
Yeah, with the finest of tooth combs as they can absolutely get their hands on. But 2 minutes to go now. This is typically the point in practice here where we see drivers peel off the racetrack and try to get to pit road. Get the car woed down to pit road speed, because as slippery as this track is at speeds with worn out tires, when you have to stand on the brakes in turn 3 and try to get her woed down to 45 miles an hour, that is a task in itself.
Watching Eric Jones coming out of turn number 4, he is flying the John Andretti 1998 STP Petty Enterprises theme. Alex, paint schemes have come and gone. That is the OG of them all right there. That is reminiscent, even though John Andretti wheeled that car. But when you see that color paint scheme, it doesn't matter in which form or which capacity, you immediately think Richard Petty, after all this time, has gone by.
You have my attention when Petty Blue and STP Red is on the racetrack. The car is visible no matter where you are at the racetrack, and it's fast too. Eric Jones, by the way, 3rd quick right now, still out there on the track getting laps. But yeah, that is just something spectacular. And as myself, a kid growing up in the 70s and into the 80s, that paint scheme was everything. Yeah, that's a throwback to John Andretti's scheme, and we certainly miss John every single day we're at the racetrack for sure, but that is the Petty scheme, and the STP colors, and that one gets your attention.
I grew up a young Mike Bagley being a Richard Petty fan, and then transitioned over to Bobby Allison, but spent many a day sitting in the grandstands at what was then Dover Downs International Speedway, watching the King whoop up on him, as it were, and he did it a lot there at the Monster Mile. Here's Eric out of turn number 4, and he'll bring the King's and John Andretti's paint scheme back to the pit lane. Advent Health on the quarter panels of that legendary paint scheme. We've got 15 seconds to go in practice for Group 1. Just about everybody is coming off the racetrack. One driver still at speed, and that is Ricky Stenhouse Jr. When Ricky gets back to the start-finish line, if he makes it back there, it looks like he's got one more lap in him. He's going to see the red and black flags indicating that practice for Group 1 is complete. Everybody will catch their collective breaths, and then Group 2 will pull onto the racetrack for their 25 minutes of practice for the Goodyear 400. From Darlington Raceway, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
We're at the start-finish line.
William Byron on pole position. Green flag is out and we're racing.
We're in the turn.
Here to the inside comes Kyle Larson. He and Hamlin bump.
We're on pit road.
4 tire Sunoco Racing Fuel. The race off from pit road is Denny Hamlin. Eric Jones goes off second.
We are live from the track. The Motor Racing Network, your home for NASCAR racing. Don't miss a lap, pit stop, or side-by-side race for the win. Listen to all the play-by-play action on your local radio station at MRN or NASCAR.com.
NASCAR history.
Petty wins his 200th career NASCAR victory.
Told by the people who made that history.
President Reagan was there. He got got us on the front page and we got him in the sports page. It was a good trade-off from that standpoint.
Motor Racing Network's NASCAR Live presents podcast The Road to Royalty. Jeff Gordon, A Colorful Career, 50 Years of MRN, the 1993 season, Junior's Journey, and more. Search for NASCAR Live on your favorite podcast platform.
Back at Darlington, 19 of the 38 cars that practice for the Goodyear 400. Carson Hocevar, the fastest of them all, in a brief pause down trackside for the current drivers that have come off the track to debrief, and the ones in Group 2 getting buckled into their race cars right now for their 25 minutes of practice.
And those drivers getting set to go here in just a moment. But in the meantime, let's hear from Josh Berry, who was second fastest in single lap speed, but Steve Post the best in the long average.
Long average, at least the numbers say you were pretty good. Josh, how did it feel from the seat of your pants?
Yeah, I felt good. Ran good here last year, both races. So I feel like I have a good feel for what I need in the race. And honestly, yeah, the car fired off pretty good, just a little too loose. So we'll just make a small adjustment to fix that and should be fine.
When you do that, when you fire off, how conscious are you to pace yourself? In other words, what you give up at the beginning, you gain at the end. How patient are you, and how conscious of that are you as you go out, even to practice here?
Yeah, it's hard. I think the first couple laps, you got to push it to try to get a little bit of feel for what you're going to have in qualifying. Obviously, the pressures are going to be different for qualifying, but you still want to try to get a gauge for what kind of grip the track has and your car has in it. So you push the first lap or two, and then maybe back it down to 85-90% after that, and just try to log some laps and get a feel for the car. So overall I'm happy with our Motorcraft quick lane Ford. Awesome looking throwback here. Can't thank everybody at Ford Motor Company and for letting us do that, and we're going to have some fun tomorrow.
It is a beautiful car, that's for sure. 33 laps is what he went down there. Miles Stanley and the crew pouring over these Goodyear tires has come off the car just to take a look at it.
Of course, Josh Berry, the 2017 Cars Tour Late Model Stock Champion, the 2020 NASCAR Weekly Series National Champion, after a brief stint with Stewart-Haas Racing, now beginning his sophomore season in the Cup Series with the Wood Brothers. Back trackside to Chris.
Carson Hocevar leads Group 1 in practice. Carson, welcome to Throwback Weekend, and you added to your flair by buying an old, Dale Earnhardt replicated truck? Describe that. I mean, you're just fully embodying this Throwback Weekend, aren't you?
Yes, if you could say that. I did it not for Throwback Weekend, but it worked. 97 truck, decked out like it's Dale Earnhardt. It's pretty cool. The Ziegler colors look great. It's not a throwback, but hopefully we can keep this thing up front all weekend. But yeah, it's love coming to Darlington. Love this whole weekend.
So then when you go qualify, how much do you have to just put worry to the wise and just go send it for one lap?
Well, it's a lot of fun for sure. We're P1 here. We qualified in the front row last year. I think our car's a lot better, so we'll see.
All right, that's Carson Hocevar, guys. It's a beautiful-looking truck parked back in the driver-owner lot. And, bought it on Facebook Marketplace, but now he's P1 in practice. So far, so good on the weekend.
Little good mojo down there for Carson Hocevar as we get set to put the second group on the racetrack here in a couple of moments. From Darlington Raceway, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
You've never been one to idly watch someone else do something for you. There's pride in self-reliance, in working with your hands, in harnessing the power of an E3 spark plug with Diamond Fire technology, yielding better engine performance. You have a choice to make. Take control of your ride, of your life, or be the passenger princess of it. Visit e3sparkplugs.com to put the power in your hands.
All of the action during the 2024 NASCAR season with NASCAR Today.
William Byron has won the Daytona 500.
Every weekday throughout the season, we'll bring you the latest news and insights.
At that point, I really had in my mind, okay, we can really win this.
As we count down the days to championship weekend in Phoenix.
It's surreal still. I can't believe I'm in this position.
I'm Chase Elliott. Listen to NASCAR Today every weekday right here on the Motor Racing Network.
Back here at the Darlington Raceway. We get set to put the next group of cars on the track. They consist of Chris Buescher, Ty Gibbs, Zane Smith, Ty Dillon, Kyle Busch, William Byron, Todd Gilliland, Michael McDowell, Tyler Reddick, and Brian Blaney.
Chase Briscoe as well. Ryan Preece will be in there along with Ross Chastain, Joey Logano, Bubba Wallace, Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, Christopher Bell, and last week's Martinsville winner, Denny Hamlin.
So as those drivers are poised and already aboard their race cars to pull out on the track, Chris Wheeler, this is the golden opportunity. Okay, if you had a team car that was out in group number 1, kind of like the Hendrick report you gave a little earlier, you have a good baseline, a good idea what to expect when you pull out on the racetrack.
Yeah, you certainly do. Now, granted, every car is set up just a little bit differently based on their baseline from maybe past races here at Darlington, but you certainly have a trend of what this racetrack is going to do to your car over the course of the run. Now, we did have that brief interruption in that Group 1 session, so nobody was able to go completely the full 25 minutes at length on the same set of tires. We did have that refire cycle for several, but at the same time, I think everybody's got a good idea as far as the wear and the fall off. Now, we've had this tire before here at Darlington. Of course, we also ran it at Homestead, so the teams have a decent-sized notebook already, but again, conditions change. Every year this racetrack continues to change, and so it goes back to that old adage, you got to race the racetrack, and so we'll see what happens here, but I'd expect these Hendrick cars, at least on this end of pit road, to get up to speed after learning what Alex Bowman was fighting in the race car. Try to catch up with Alex in a little bit just to see how, if they've got it figured out, but nonetheless, they should have a good baseline here when they go out for practice.
Of course, the challenges that these Cup drivers face will also be faced by the NASCAR Xfinity Series driver squad later this afternoon. It'll be the Sport Clips Haircuts VFW Help a Hero 200. Motor Racing Network airtime 3 p.m. Eastern for that one. Christopher Bell, who is running for Joe Gibbs Racing, will start on the pole. Brandon Jones, Justin Allgaier, Taylor Gray, and Sam Mayer, your top 5 qualifiers for today's Darlington afternoon cap. Not a night cap, but an evening cap, so to speak.
Yeah, and then after that race, if you're here in the PD region, it's never too late to come down, buy a ticket, and watch the Xfinity Series race. And then it's the official Darlington Raceway parade that starts in downtown Darlington, South Carolina, weaves its way through town, and ends up in the infield here at the racetrack. We'll be privileged to be a part of that here again later on this evening. Hope to see everybody out at the parade a little later on. And then tomorrow, Mike, the main event, the Goodyear 400, 2 o'clock Eastern for NASCAR Live Race Day to get the table set for 400 miles of racing at the track Too Tough to Tame.
One of the cool things about racing at Darlington on Throwback Weekend, the NASCAR alumni that you'll see roaming around the property. You've got Donnie Allison, Greg Biffle, Jeff Bodine, Jerry Cook. Carl Edwards is here. Matter of fact, Carl will be throwing the green flag tomorrow. Ron Hornaday Jr. We talk about that Petty paint scheme. Well, Dale Inman, legendary crew chief for the Petties, is here. Ernie Irvin, Randy LaJoy, Kevin LePage, Dave Marcus is making the run to Darlington. Larry Mack, obviously, will be on the Fox Sports telecast. But you've also got Butch Mott, Gary Nelson, former Cup crew chief and Cup Series director from days gone by, and that's just only part of the list.
You got Todd Parrott's going to be here, Robin Pemberton, Andy Petrie, obviously the King, Richard Petty, Kyle Petty, and Tiger Tom Pistone is going to be here as well. What is he, 96 years old? It's going to be great to have Tiger Tom here at the racetrack. Robert Presley is going to be here this weekend. Of course, he's somebody who's a mainstay in both the Cup Series and in what is now the NASCAR Xfinity Series. Morgan Shepherd, Mike Skinner, Lake Speed, Mike Wallace, Michael Waltrip, Waddell Wilson, Leonard Wood, all part of Throwback Weekend, and alumni coming back here. You know, Lake Speed, just a true gentleman here. A lot of people don't realize when he was younger, he won the World Go-Kart Driving Championship. The driver that he beat to win that, Ayrton Senna.
Wow. I did not know that. That's pretty amazing. Lake will be giving the invocation tomorrow before we get going. Carl Edwards will be in the flag stand. The command will come from the Wood brothers. And Greg Biffle will be driving the pace car tomorrow. It's always fun when we get the opportunity to convene all these legends in one place, and that's what's happening at Darlington Raceway this weekend. Group 2 cars have just gotten the green flag. They are pulling onto the racetrack, and we'll bring you up to speed on their times and their positioning on the leaderboard as we continue. From Darlington Raceway, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Relive the thrills of over 50 years of NASCAR racing with the Motor Racing Network's Classic Race.
36th Annual Southern 500. They come down to the start-finish line. Bill Elliott and David Pearson get down.
We dig into the MRN Audio Vault for unforgettable races and moments.
Dale Jarrett's got the lead. Earnhardt's not going to get him. Dale Jarrett is going to win the Daytona 500.
Available on MRN.com and podcast platform.
Alan Kulwicki out of turn number 4, the new Winston Cup champion. He does it across the line.
MRN Classic Races.
From tickets, parking, and travel, race weekends can be stressful. Let Racing Electronics make communication easy. With a scanner and Easy Talk intercom system rental from Racing Electronics, you can effortlessly talk over the noise of the race. Hear uncensored driver and crew communication from every team in the race, or tune into the race broadcast with your favorite MRN announcers. To learn more, visit RacingElectronics.com today.
Back at Darlington Raceway, Group 2 cars have entered the track for their 25 minutes of practice. William Byron, the first to take a lap. Alex, his first lap only puts him 8th fastest. There's nobody that's entering the track right now that has gotten at least one lap in that's been able to crack the top 7.
And that's a bit skewed, and we get that. And a lot of people down there in the garage and up and down the pit lane, they don't care about that right now because they have an agenda that they're trying to work through here over this 25 minutes of practice session. But that's just simply a product of the track being in a different condition after the first 25-minute session out there. But William Byron is just now on his second lap, going to number 6 on the leaderboard. Ty Gibbs is to 8th, Denny Hamlin 11th, Chase Briscoe 12th, and Ryan Preece is 13th overall. Those are just the drivers here, the fastest drivers of Group 2.
Some pretty cool paint schemes on the track for this round of practice. One that sticks out, hits close to home here at Darlington Raceway. Cale Yarborough, a native of Timmonsville, South Carolina. We're thinking of Cale and his family this weekend. Well, Joey Logano is throwing back to Cale's legendary Holly Farms paint scheme from 1975 to 1977 with retro Pennzoil logos as well. That yellow and red car just pops when you see it go around this racetrack.
And that's part of Throwback Weekend, and why so many people come to Darlington Raceway is because it just kind of gets you in the feels, doesn't it? When you see some of these paint schemes out there whipping around this legendary racetrack. The layout has not changed over the years since they built this place, and to have those types of iconic paint schemes on the track, on the banking here at Darlington, with the red and white dotted walls around this track, it really is something that just kind of gives you a little feel good, a little smile about yourself, and that's one of them that you just described.
Over the course of a weekend, those pristine red and white walls that Alex mentioned will be blackened up with scuff marks from the Darlington stripes being handed out. We saw some of those handed out in Xfinity Series practice and qualifying earlier. William Sawalich just bounced it right off the wall, scraped the wall during that qualifying session over in turns 3 and 4. And in the apex of the corner, it says Darlington, South Carolina on the wall. White paint, red letters, and you see these black scrape marks right down the middle. That is the calling card of Darlington Raceway. If you ever wanted to take a picture or a snapshot, that's it, because that picture and that picture alone tells a lot of the story of Darlington.
And that's turns 3 and 4 here at Darlington. When you get to turn 1, you're carrying so much speed from the front straightaway. You burp the throttle a little bit in the midpoint of the corner, put the car on the outside wall, and you're on the throttle midpoint of turns 1 and 2, and you are hammered down all the way through turn 2, down the back straightaway. Then you have to roll out of the gas and hope you got some grip left in those tires every single time you come in there into turn 3, because that's the narrow end of this racetrack. Narrow because when they were laying this racetrack out to build it, they got what is now turns 1 and 2 completely done. They get down to this end of the track, and they realize they didn't have enough land because there's a big, what they call the minnow pond, which is over right off of turn number 4 right now. And they said, you know what, you can have the land to do this, build this racetrack, but you will not mess with my fishing pond down there. You're going to leave that alone. So the next best thing, they already laid it out. We'll just make this end a little bit more narrow. And little did they know, because of that gentleman that did not want his minnow pond touched, has created one of the most iconic racetracks on the planet.
And one of the most iconic reputations on the NASCAR schedule. It's because of that we have what we have today, and it's because of that it sends drivers into fits. You'll have drivers screaming for tires. You'll have drivers talking about the challenges of the layouts here. And it adds to the mystique of the Darlington Raceway. Carson Osevar still fastest, by the way, of the cars that have gone out in Group 2. They're about to trip double digits. William Byron, the fastest of those. He is about to complete his 10th lap. In practice, he is 6th overall on the leaderboard. As everybody, Alex, right now is just going round and round. It's all about the long run right now here at Darlington.
It is, but Christopher Bell's just brought his car off the racetrack, and they're going to do some work on that car. You know, Steve Post, I mentioned a moment ago, there are paint schemes on Throwback Weekend that just get you right in the feels, and I believe the Christopher Bell car can do that for you, too.
Yes, indeed. When Christopher Bell announced this about 10 days ago, I knew what my favorite was going to be. And really, it's a twofer, if you will. Christopher's running the Xfinity Series today, and, of course, the Cup Series tomorrow. And he's got 2 tribute cars to the Ohio Traveler, Rick Ferkel. Now, Rick Ferkel was one of the first World of Outlaw sprint car drivers. The World of Outlaw story is a bunch of gypsies traveling around the country. Well, Rick Ferkel was too outlaw for the Outlaws, because even though the World of Outlaws formed and he was at the first few races, he just decided to go off on his own and run wherever the money was at, and Rick Ferkel was that kind of guy. The tie to Christopher Bell is so critical to Christopher's career. Christopher, a 16-year-old kid from Norman, Oklahoma, he moved into Ohio with Rick and Kathy Ferkel, and Rick taught him a lot of the nuances, not only of sprint car racing, but racing as a whole. The car is beautiful. Rick Ferkel had a cream-colored car, always had a silver wing, and then he had a yellow-colored car, always had the silver wing. He had a very unique font for the Zero. So Christopher's Cup car is that yellow car, silver top, and they have got the special Rick Ferkel font of the Zero, and above the door it does not say Christopher Bell. On both sides of the car, it says Rick Ferkel. When you're throwing back to a Sprint Car Hall of Famer, you're the winner in my book, and that's my favorite one. Christopher Bell here today in the Xfinity Series, and tomorrow in the NASCAR Cup Series with a throwback to the Ohio Traveler, Rick Ferkel.
And it is this weekend, Alex, that affords us the opportunity to throw back and learn about individuals like Rick Ferkel and stories about paint schemes and drivers having a tendency to open themselves up for days of yesteryear. In the case of Christopher Bell, obviously going back to how his sprint car career began.
He is a driver for Joe Gibbs Racing, a 3-time winner already this season. He ran a handful of laps to get his practice going here. As a matter of fact, Chris Wilner, he only ran 7 laps before he brought the car to pit lane.
Yeah, and Adam Stevens says if we're going to work on it, we need to come sooner rather than later. So Christopher Bell brought his Toyota down the Rick Ferkel special. He still sits here on pit road. The big thing that a lot of these cars I've been hearing, including Christopher Bell, are fighting is tight conditions on fire-off and then just trying to get the car pointed down the hill off of turn 2. He says, I can't turn with the front tires. So this is an opportunity here to make an adjustment for Christopher Bell. They're going to leave a set of tires on, but that is a very, very common theme is tight race cars. Same too for Ty Gibbs, who I believe plans on coming down as well. Of course, big news for Ty this week. That crew got championship-winning car chief Robert Cheddar Smith aboard the 54, and I know crew chief Tyler Allen was excited to have Cheddar on the car. Of course, championship-winning with Kevin Harvick and Rodney Childers for so many years, but having that level of expertise as a car chief will only up that program that continues to try to find its footing here at a rough start to 2025. So tight race cars for the Joe Gibbs as well as for William Byron, who's down here on pit road, but what a get for Joe Gibbs Racing to get Cheddar Smith as a car chief for Ty Gibbs.
It's a huge win for Joe Gibbs Racing, but it's also a huge win for Cheddar himself. Of course, mentioning Rodney Childers, Stewart Haas Racing, and starting out the first 7 races of this season with Spire Motorsports. I visited with Cheddar earlier this morning. He's very excited. What a tremendous vote of confidence that Joe Gibbs gave him and that JGR JR gave him, and they feel that Cheddar and Ty will work very well together. They're building pillars of confidence around that young man who has struggled here in the first 7 races of this season.
You're right about that. Cheddar Smith, for those that don't know, has been a longtime car chief in this sport. He was with Rodney Childers for years and years, won championship at Stewart-Haas Racing with Kevin Harvick. He's a guy that understands a lot about how these cars go and can really make speed with these race cars, and that's a big pickup there for that race team to get him there as part of that race team there at Joe Gibbs Racing. So to see Cheddar walking around the garage earlier this morning with that black and green monster shirt, got to look at him. Got a double take. Cheddar, everything good? He said, man, everything is great right now. So sometimes you just need a change of scenery and a kickstart, and that's what's going on, not only with Cheddar Smith, but with that entire race team.
Well, while things may be great there, they are not great for Joey Logano. He is 34th of 38 drivers. Steve Post, what in the world's going on with the defending champion right now?
Boy, I am telling you, he has got a loose race car. That car wants to step out when he gets entered in the corner. He gets it under him and wants to step out in the middle of the corner. And right now, Joey Logano was very frustrated with his time. They were giving him times. They were talking about Kyle Larson tried entering here. Ryan Blaney tried doing this, tried doing that. Finally, Paul Wolf just cued the radio. We're terrible. Bring it in. We're not doing any good by staying out on the racetrack. They're going to work on tightening this race car up a little bit for Joey Logano. So not what you expect from the reigning champ, Joey Logano, but we'll see what the magic of Paul Wolf can pull as they work on this beautiful, beautiful Cale Yarborough throwback Shell Pennzoil Ford. It's a good-looking race car, but right now it's evil handling for Joey Logano.
And with only 12 minutes and 55 seconds left in practice, there may be a hat down there. Not sure if there's a rabbit in it that Paul Wolf can pull out of it. From Darlington Raceway, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Buckle up and hang on. This is going to be a good one.
The fans of Kansas Speedway know how to have a good time. One that celebrates fantastic finishes.
Crash together. So close.
And family-friendly facilities. Trading paint.
We got feuding.
And tailgating tradition. Burnouts. Beer. And barbecue. Oh, it'll for sure be a good time. And you are all invited. NASCAR weekend at Kansas Speedway, May 9th through the 11th. Get your tickets now at kansasspeedway.com. Are you ready for sights, sounds, and speed that'll shake you to your core? To see NASCAR stars like Ryan Blaney, Chase Elliott, Bubba Wallace, Denny Hamlin, and Ross Chastain attack the asphalt? Are you ready to make memories that'll last a lifetime? Yeah? You're ready. Then we got one more question. What are you waiting for? To experience the thrill of a NASCAR race in person, visit NASCAR.com/tickets.
Here at the Darlington Raceway, practice for our second group of cars, down to 11.5 minutes remaining. We got Tyler Reddick working the outside wall. Most everybody in this group is still out on the racetrack. Christopher Bell is back out there making more laps. He is only good enough single lap speeds to be 29th on the board. So while some teams have some speed early on, others maybe not so much, and still have some work to do here before we go qualifying here in just a bit for the Goodyear 400. You know, I was looking, Mike, up and down at some of these throwback paint schemes. The Ty Dillon Colleague Racing scheme. You look at the race car, you can tell just by the font and whatnot that it is a throwback of some sort. But again, part of it is the story that comes along with it. Ty Dillon throwing back to Patty Moise's car, the Beaver Street Foods 1989 Daytona paint scheme. Again, to look at the car whipped by, it's a mostly white car with a little bit of red on it. It doesn't really jump off the page, but when you start learning more about it and what it represents, boy, it really becomes that much more enjoyable.
Of course, Patty Moise is the wife of Elton Sawyer, NASCAR Senior VP of Competition. They raced against each other on the racetrack, and it was great seeing Patty see that paint scheme for the first time. She went to the race shop, and it meant a lot to her. Of course, that name brings back a lot of memories for a lot of folks in what was in the NASCAR Busch Series.
You're right about that. It really is a really cool throwback and a different way to approach Throwback Weekend. As we're down to now just under 10 minutes of practice remaining, let's go back to Chris Wilner.
Well, Alex, Chase Briscoe right now for Joe Gibbs Racing sits 14th on the single lap speed chart. But boy, what a homecoming for Briscoe. Every time he comes here to Darlington, of course, won his first Southern 500 last year. But he says this place has just been so comfortable for him. He said it's also been a big part of his wife Marissa, and their whole family's history here. Remember, about 5 years ago, Marissa suffered a miscarriage right before Chase Briscoe went on to win the Xfinity race. It was an emotional day. Then 4 years later, he wins the Southern 500 with his son Brooks here in attendance, and now this year, the whole family, twins and Brooks, as well as Marissa, will be here at the racetrack on Sunday for the Goodyear 400. So Chase Briscoe loves coming to Darlington. Not really happy with the race car right now, but feels like as a driver, he knows what he can do over the course of the race to make the most out of his race car. But it's still a learning adjustment. He told me earlier today the fact that he's still getting used to this Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota and how it drives differently than what it did in the Ford camp with SHR. But what a great story for Chase Briscoe, his family, calling Darlington their home track, and hopefully to add another milestone weekend here in 2025.
So there's been a bit of a schism between Chase and Marissa. Now that they have 3 children, how do we transport the cherubs to and fro? Chase is all about wanting a minivan. He wants to get a minivan. It's very functional. Put 3 little baby carriers in there. Marissa wants no parts of it. So for Daytona, for Speed Weeks, Chase rented one, hoping that he would sell her on that opportunity. Let's just say that a Toyota Sienna has not made its way into the driveway. Marissa pushing back hard on that purchase.
You may want one, but the question is who's going to be driving it most? And if Mama don't want a minivan, Mama ain't getting a minivan. That's just how it works out. And Marissa has won that one, that battle, which was fun. I remember hearing that story and talking about it back in Daytona during Speed Week. I'm not going to lie, I've had a minivan as a rental before too, and they're pretty sporty.
They are.
They are quite roomy and good for road trips, but bottom line, as the old saying is, if Mama ain't happy, nobody's happy.
That's right. But you know what? At the end of the day, it's good to have that problem because they did have trouble conceiving for a while. Now they have 3 beautiful children, and it's a squad of a Briscoe 5 now that they work with. And all of the family is here. They do take road trips, and obviously this is one of them that the Briscoes are on together. And we wish Chase and Marissa all the best, but also, the last time we were here, Chase Briscoe winning the Cookout Southern 500, looking to go back-to-back here at the track. Too tough to tame as he gets adjusted into his new digs here in 2025.
Yeah, no question about that. We're down to 7 minutes to go here in practice for tomorrow's Goodyear 400. Other great paint schemes on Throwback Weekend. A couple of Front Row Motorsports Fords have some good ones out there. Todd Gilliland, his car is white and red, mostly white, but the red lettering, and there's a red stripe offset. It's a racing stripe over the hood and over the top of the car. It's a tribute honoring former owner and mechanic Raymond Fox, whose great-grandson is still employed and serves as a tire changer for Gilliland at Front Row Motorsports. So another cool tribute to somebody who's actually a legacy that still works on that race car.
You know, I'm just watching the car go around the racetrack. He's halfway down the back straightaway, entering turn number 3 right now. But if you go back and if you look at the way cars were numbered back in the day, not the location of the number on the door, but just the font that was used. We've come a long way in this sport from some of the numbers that we used to use to now some of the real stylized numbers that we see on display each and every week.
Yeah, we have. And there's a time in our sport, back going to this day, thinking about Raymond Fox and that whole era, they would hand paint the sponsors and the letters and the numbers on these race cars, and how things have changed and how we progress now. You're not allowed to have any paint on a NASCAR Cup Series car at all by rule. And a lot of people listening might just, wait, what? You can't paint your car? No. Everything is a wrap that goes over these race cars now, which is essentially a gigantic sticker that you put over the race car. Get the razor blades out, you cut out the windows, you cut around the wheel wells, and you basically smooth it all the way down and around. They do a magnificent job, and another reason why these are some of the best mechanics and best people on the planet working on cars. Because I've seen some folks, Mike, driving up and down the road when they tried to tint their own glass, and big bubbles in it. It's janky. You just can't have it.
And totally unacceptable. Back trackside to Steve Post.
One of the things that's not janky or not unacceptable is the speed in Ryan Preece's car over the long run. I've just been monitoring them, and they were just, as all teams do, just giving Ryan his pacing and everything. And I was looking, I got a peek at some of the telemetry, and I'm like, man, it looks like that 60 car is good. I can't read it like an engineer, but what little I could tell was the car was good. They just brought him in, and Derek Finley, the crew chief, said, "What'd you think?" And Ryan was like, "I think it's pretty good." And Derek said, "Yeah, the numbers are really, really good." And Ryan's like, "Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. We got something we can work with here." And this team comes into Darlington with a full head of steam, a lot of momentum, some great finishes, some great racing. This is a team that is firing on all 8 cylinders between the driver, Ryan Preece, the crew chief, Derek Finley. The pit crew is just so rock solid. And this is a team right now that's... Ryan Preece has walked around the garage the last couple of weeks with his chest puffed out. When he comes out of this race car, it's going to be a little bit further puffed out. They feel really, really good about what they have here at Darlington this weekend.
And confidence and momentum is a real thing in the sport of NASCAR racing. Ryan Preece has never finished in the top 10 in a Cup car here at Darlington Raceway in 10 career starts. But, Mike, when you have that kind of momentum and that kind of confidence, not only as a race car driver, but a confidence in your race team, who knows what they can do here tomorrow?
Well, it's well-deserved. I mean, there are 3 consecutive top 10s, and Alex, I would venture to say that's one of the more surprising stories of 2025. We knew that he would make an impact when RFK, Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing, added that 3rd team. He's coming off challenges last year at Stewart-Haas Racing, challenges before that at JTG Daugherty Racing. This has been a journeyman race car driver that's a product of the Mod Squad, the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour, that has found his home, and he's found his stride with brand-new crew chief Derek Finley and a brand new race team to boot.
They're all just a group of racers, and that is about the highest compliment you can pay anybody in motorsports if they're just called a racer to do that. Now, back before the season started, we had a little roundtable discussion, and we talked about Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing. I had Chris Buescher winning multiple races. I even had Brad Keselowski getting back to victory lane this year. I made it very clear and went public that I didn't think Ryan Preece would win anything. And here we are. No, it's a small sample size, but Ryan Preece and Chris Buescher are tat for tat right now at Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing. Brad Keselowski, they got a little work to do there.
3rd at Las Vegas, 9th at Homestead, 7th a week ago at Martinsville for Ryan Preece. Backtrack side.
Yeah, and just to follow and continue on the conversation of Ryan Preece, and Alex, you and I, we had a little visit with Derek Finley. They've done it a variety of ways. You know, remember we went to Phoenix? They were the first car to put on the option tire, and then they did some unique pit strategy in Las Vegas, and I talked to Derek about it, and he said, yeah, it's a gamble, but it's not a huge gamble. It's a calculated gamble. Well, looking at Martinsville, they just needed to gut that one out. They found themselves out of position. They found themselves about 30th spot, and what they did the second half of that race is they passed one car at a time, and they never gave it back. They never gave it back on the racetrack, and they never gave it back on pit road. And Derek Finley said that's racing the hard way. That's what we need to do, and that's what you can do with a confident driver like Ryan Preece and Derek Finley calling the shots. If we need to roll the dice, we can roll the dice, or if we need to gut it out, we can gut it out. Both of those strategies have yielded top 10 finishes here over the last couple of weeks, and I'm with you guys on the whole RFK conversation. I think I had some hope for Ryan Preece. That hope has been emboldened. I thought Chris Buescher would be a multiple-time winner, and Brad Keselowski, that's a head-scratcher right now where they're at with their performance, although Brad earlier today said he felt like if they could ever get the tide to turn, a little good fortune, that their speed is there, maybe they can just have a little good fortune, a good break, and they can get that car back up at the front of the field with the other 2 automobiles from RFK.
Brad Keselowski saying earlier this week that some of their challenges on their team have been self-induced. Some of those challenges have been a result of victim of circumstance. You put all that together, and this is one of the most challenging starts to a season Brad Keselowski has ever had, and we're waiting for Chris Buescher to emerge from the pack. Remember, it was this race weekend a year ago that he and Tyler Reddick were banging quarter panels coming down to the line. They wall each other, and Brad just putters on by and is able to take the checkered flag. So perhaps maybe another weekend that could play into the wheelhouse of Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing. We'll all find out together tomorrow, but it's always a handful coming to Darlington, and if you don't run this track well and you had a rough start to the season, this could be the longest 400 miles of your career tomorrow.
You're right about that. To kind of give you some context on Brad Keselowski, numerically this is the worst start to any of his NASCAR Cup Series seasons in his career. He's got 0 top 10 finishes for the first time in the first 7 races since 2011. He has not led a single lap in the first 7 races this year. He's never had a Cup Series season where he's not led at least 1 lap in the first 7 races of the year. And he's only finished on the lead lap in these first 7 races twice.
Wow. Unbelievable start for Brad Keselowski. Let's hope he turns it around this weekend. Practice is done. Qualifying is coming up from Darlington Raceway. This is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
You've never been one to idly watch someone else do something for you. There's pride in self-reliance, in working with your hands, in harnessing the power of an E3 spark plug with Diamond Fire technology, yielding better engine performance. You have a choice to make. Take control of your ride, of your life, or be the passenger princess of it. Visit e3sparkplugs.com to put the power in your hands.
Moments on MRN Classic Races on any podcast platform.
Looking for motorsports coverage you can't find anywhere else? Look no further than the Motor Racing Network's lineup of weekly podcasts. NASCAR news and interviews on NASCAR Live and NASCAR Live Wide Open. NASCAR Cup Series Insight on Crew Call. NASCAR Grassroots Racing News and Talk on NASCAR Coast to Coast. And Sprint Car Talk on Wing Nation. All these and more available on podcast platforms and MRN.com.
Back here at the Darlington Raceway, practice for tomorrow's Goodyear 400 has been wrapped up. The only thing now we have to do for the NASCAR Cup Series today is qualify them to find out where their starting spot will be. And then on that note, that's how they also pick their pit box based off of where they qualify.
In case you're wondering, we talk about the Darlington stripe, which is when a car slides up and scrapes across the wall. In practice, 21 have been obtained on the quarter panels, the right quarter panels of these race cars. And we see them now being pushed up to get positioned in. Mainly it's focused on the right rear wheel well, and nothing that obviously warrants a backup car or anything like that. But the old lady in black reaching out, her walls are reaching out, grabbing a lot of people today, and that's only in practice. We've not even got to qualifying yet, and of course that's going to be top of mind tomorrow when we throw the green flag for the 400 miles.
And the overwhelming majority of those Darlington stripes came deep into a run in practice where their tires were worn out, the car sliding around, and the drivers, that's part of what practice is for. You have to figure out what your car can do, but you also have to figure out what is the fine line. Where is that line that I can get right up to but not cross and be in trouble? And with these composite bodies on these race cars, it's not sheet metal where you have to bang them back out. They essentially pop right back into place with just nudges out there on the wall. That affords these drivers the opportunity to go out there and get a little bit more aggressive.
Daniel Suarez is the driver in practice that has the most laps, 40. William Byron has 27, the least of all John Hunter Nemechek after spinning. He only got 14 laps on the racetrack. Carson Hocevar, fastest of everybody. Josh Berry, Eric Jones, Austin Cindric, and Justin Haley, the top 5. All of those were from Group 1. The fastest driver in Group 2, William Byron, that was the 6th-place driver. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Ty Gibbs, Austin Dillon, Brad Keselowski, and Ryan Preece. They're the top 11 as we get set to qualify them. Everybody gets 1 lap of qualifying. There's no second round. There's no second lap. It's a one and done. for qualifying for the Goodyear 400 for tomorrow.
By the way, John Barry, thanks you for mentioning his name on the air. An older country music artist is John Barry. So anyway, Josh Barry, very fast, good-looking race car. They're beginning to push the Group 1 cars up to the exit of pit lane now in order to go out and go qualifying here in just a moment. Austin Hill will be the first on the track. J.J. Yaley, Eric Jones, Shane Van Gisbergen, and Cole Custer, the first 5 cars set to go out and qualify.
Chris Wilner is with William Byron.
Yeah, William Byron was top 5, best of the Group 2 drivers. What did you learn about your Exalta Chevrolet? I know you guys came in, made some adjustments as well.
Yes, yeah, I thought our short run speed was pretty good, which was nice, like the lap time. The car feel was okay for a few laps, and then I got tight, and so we just kind of came in to work on that, and I felt like we made a lot of improvements. I feel like we have a good base here. The track seems a little different this year, so just trying to figure out what those changes are and understand that and where I can run and make time. So I feel like there's lots to talk about overnight for sure, and then really just focus on qualifying. So what do I need to do? What does my balance need to be for a decent qualifying lap?
You've had a couple different Jeff Gordon throwbacks. This one honors 2015, his final full season. Where does this silver Exalta scheme stand in your list of paint schemes?
It looks amazing. Yeah, the car looks really nice, and I feel like I've had the best throwback scheme. So I feel like honestly I've had so many good ones. It's kind of it's nice when you have the 24 car, and Jeff had so many good schemes over the years.
Awesome. Appreciate your time. William Byron, again, top 5 in practice, likes the car. We'll see if it translates to qualifying.
We'll find out here in just a short bit as the sun continues to beat down here on the Darlington Raceway. The wind is still a little breezy out there. Just a beautiful day here on a Saturday in early April here in the PD region of South Carolina. A phrase that we will say often this weekend here, the PD region of South Carolina.
Of course, referring to the PD region named after the PD Indian tribe from centuries ago that settled in this part of the country. And obviously very important to the heritage and the traditions of this part of the state of South Carolina. You'll hear the Track 2 Tough to Tame, the Lady in Black, the PD region, all describing where we are. That's the Darlington Raceway. We are in Darlington, South Carolina, basically off of Interstate 95 as you head points north or points south. Back to Chris.
Chase Briscoe out of his Toyota after practice. Chase, what was your takeaway from that 20 minutes of practice?
Yeah, we were just really, really loose. By far the loosest I've ever been here. So definitely got a little bit of work to do. I feel like we have some ideas of things that we could have probably done a little bit different there, just taking off. So yeah, hopefully we can make the right adjustments. Qualifying, it's kind of tough because you kind of want to be a little free just to go fast. So hopefully we can hit the balance right with our Bass Pro Shops Toyota and, start up front. That's going to be crucial here tomorrow. Not only starting up front, but the pit stall selection. There's going to be a ton of pit stops. So, see what we got. I definitely don't feel great about it, but we're, confident that my guys will get it better. And they seem way less worried about it than I am. So, we'll see what we got.
I know you talked to the media center earlier today about how this is a driver's track. You could do a lot more behind the wheel. Being a winner here now at the Southern 500, how much extra swagger does that give you? Because when you win at a place like Darlington, you've done something.
Well, I didn't feel it there in practice. I felt super lost. So, maybe everything I said in the media center wasn't right. But, typically I feel like you can kind of find speed and do things in your race car. But, there was a struggle. I honestly just felt lost the whole time. So, definitely coming back, though, this morning, there is definitely, there's confidence anytime you go back to any track where you've won before. But certainly a place like this, you just feel like you've really accomplished something. So, hopefully do it again and be pretty special to go back-to-back.
Appreciate your time. Chase Briscoe lost. You don't want to hear that too often at a racetrack. Maybe they can find something in qualifying.
Yeah, they're going to search for the speed just like everybody else here in just a couple of moments. From Darlington Raceway, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Every time the siren sounds or lights flash, someone's life is on the line. At Whelen Engineering, we know first responders carry that weight every day. That's why for over 70 years, we've led the emergency warning industry, designing and manufacturing the lights, sirens, and safety systems they trust right here in America. Because when the mission is critical, there's no room for second best. Whelen Engineering, trusted to protect first responders.
Fun find anywhere else? Check out the Motor Racing Network's lineup of exclusive podcasts. MRN Classic Races, Junior's Journey, The Many Hats of Jack Roush, Richard Petty, Road to Royalty, 50 Years of MRN, Jeff Gordon, A Colorful Career, and The Tough Trucks of NASCAR. Find these and more MRN exclusive podcasts on podcast providers and MRN.com.
Practice and pole qualifying for the Goodyear 400 is brought to you on MRN by E3 Spark Plugs. Stuck in slow motion? Unleash the NASCAR fire inside your engine with E3 Spark Plugs. Forget pit stops, too. E3 gives you maximum fuel efficiency for more miles on the road and less time at the pump. E3 Spark Plugs. Power, speed, domination. Get yours today.
So once practice ends, it's 10 minutes before qualifying begins. Steve Post, what are these teams doing to the race cars to prepare them to go out for their one lap of qualifying?
Well, that depends, Mike. It depends on how good the car was. But no, your point is spot on. There's a very limited number of things they can do on the race cars as far as settings go on the race cars. A lot of them are cooling them down. I'm actually standing here, William Byron's car. They've got big fans blowing cool air into the radiator, the front of the race car, cooling the cars down, recirculating the engine to get the water all the way through it, to get the whole system cooled down. Minor adjustments you can do if you're one of those teams that have struggled, like maybe a Joey Logano. You're working on some minor adjustments, minor changes on the car, but not a lot they can do as far as old school NASCAR goes. We used to bring them in and rebuild them on these break periods. Minor things, minor adjustments, cooling them down, making sure everything is in good shape, ready to go for this qualifying run. And again, one of the things you guys have talked about, and we've talked about, is a qualifying lap versus long run speed are so different. So how do you find that balance of a good qualifying lap today, but not setting the car down a path tomorrow where on lap number 30 you've lost your race car totally? So lots of challenges, but as far as what they're working on down here, just the standard cooling the cars down and minor chassis adjustments on them.
Qualifying for the Goodyear 400 is officially underway. Austin Hill pulls out on the racetrack. The 30-year-old from Winston, Georgia, makes his way over into turns 3 and 4, getting ready to qualify at Darlington in a Cup car for the very first time.
Of course, last week at the Martinsville Speedway, Austin took his Chevrolet to victory lane, giving Richard Childress Racing its 100th win. They've not won an Xfinity Series competition here. They have, obviously, in the NASCAR Cup Series. Austin getting his crack at competition here in the Cup Series for the first time in 2025. He is on the green flag, and right now he is working off the end of the backstretch.
It's got to be a daunting task for these drivers. You just ran 25 minutes of practice where the tires wear out. You bolt on a brand new set of Goodyear Eagle tires here. Go out there, and you got to drive the car beyond what you think the limit was in practice that you had out there, and Austin Hill will be the first to do just that. His one and only lap of qualifying, 163.538 miles per hour. That's 30.070 seconds on the stopwatch.
J.J. Yaley is pulling onto the racetrack right now for the New York Racing Team. He'll be followed by Eric Jones, Shane Van Gisbergen, Cole Custer, who, by the way, will join us as analyst for later today, our coverage of the NASCAR Xfinity Series. Cody Ware will be up after that with Riley Herbst, Noah Gregson, and we'll be getting into the meat and potatoes, as it were, of qualifying for the Cup Series.
While J.J. Yaley in his Bill Elliott 1988 number 9 scheme is on the racetrack qualifying with Wawa on board as the sponsor this weekend. Let's check in with Chris Wilner.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr. getting ready to qualify. The bright orange and yellow Sunny D machine certainly stands out on a hot and sunny day here in Darlington. Ricky, you're 6 quick in practice. Does that give you optimism going into qualifying, especially on the short run?
I'm not sure. It needs to be this place. Starting, closer to the front is definitely a big benefit here at Darlington, even though a lot of things can change throughout this race. But car felt good early on in that run. Our Sunny D Camaro needs a little help on the longer run, keeping my front turn in it. So we'll see if we made the right adjustments. I was a little too tight there early as well.
Appreciate it. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. climbed aboard that Sunny D Chevrolet. We'll see what he has here in qualifying.
Right now, Eric Jones on the racetrack takes the checkered flag. Eric Jones going to the top of the leaderboard. 29.617 seconds, 166.040. And the drop-off is mightily right now. 163.538 for Austin Hill, 162.222 for J.J. Yaley, as Shane Van Gisbergen now takes to the racetrack. You know, talking to Ricky Stenhouse Jr. there, Cup start 4:43 tomorrow for Ricky, going for his 5th career win in the NASCAR Cup Series.
He's one of them that you think about that. He's just around, and especially on super speedways, he has a knack for figuring out how to be at the front of the field on those things. And Ricky Stenhouse Jr., one of the talented guys here and one of the more likable guys in the garage area as well. Back to pit lane, Steve Post.
Chris Buescher down here has Fifth Third Bank colors on his Ford here this weekend as he's ready to go here at Darlington after such a great run here last season here at the racetrack. So see if we can catch a word with Chris down here as Chris, you had some practice. How's the race car?
You know what? Pretty stoked to be in this Fifth Third Bank Mustang. I'm ready to get some laps here for qualifying. I think the way it went, we would have certainly liked to have a little bit more front turn. So we're going to be thinking about that and make sure we can keep the long run underneath us. But right now we're focused on a single lap.
How do you challenge that? Focus on a single lap, need to be good on lap 50 tomorrow.
Yeah, it's a trick. You know, it's you in practice, almost 2 seconds off of your fast lap, maybe 2 seconds, and now you have to switch that back over and say, all right, I need your fastest lap of the day right now. So gotta anticipate a little bit. Sun's out. We were hoping for a little more cloud cover. It's steadily getting hotter, right? So we know grip level is going to be a little less than each practice was to start, but still got to figure out how to go fast.
Wish you well.
Thank you.
There we go. Chris Buescher down here ready to climb aboard his Ford and take it out and give it a run here at Darlington.
He has started top 10 in his last 3 Darlington races, and he mentioned it's getting warmer. 85 degrees with a heat index of 88 degrees, and the wind is still churning off of turn 4, blowing over to turn 2.
Can't help but to think at last year's Goodyear 400 here at Darlington, just how close Chris Buescher was to getting that win when he was leading in the closing couple of laps, and Tyler Reddick went to the inside of him in turn 3 and tried the old slide up across the nose and put both of them in the fence. And the much larger Chris Buescher stomping down the pit lane to Tyler Reddick. We thought it was going to be an unfair fight down there. Buescher, not normally one that's going to throw hands on pit road, but he made it very clear his point, and it was definitely a one-sided conversation.
I was on pit road for that race, and I watched that altercation, and he wagged his finger at Tyler Reddick saying, I need you to be better. And that was it. There were no hands thrown. There were no fisticuffs. Chris Buescher getting his message across to Tyler Reddick. Frustrations on both sides. They both had a chance to win the race. And because of that skirmish in turns 3 and 4 in that race 1 year ago, that handed the win over to Brad Keselowski.
It did, and effectively that made it difficult on Chris Buescher. He thought he was going to be a playoff-eligible driver. Then we go to Kansas in the month of May, and he loses the race on the closest finish in NASCAR Cup Series history to Kyle Larson by 1/1000th of a second. Another one he was so very close, obviously, to getting a win. Didn't get it. Finally broke through and got his win at Watkins Glen on the road course, but too little too late as far as playoffs were concerned. He had already missed the playoffs. 7
drivers have taken time so far. Cole Custer has just put up the fastest, 29.483. That's a 166.794 mile per hour lap. Followed by Riley Herbst, Eric Jones, Rick Ware, Shane Van Gisbergen, Austin Hill, and J.J. Yaley. Here comes Noah Gragson to complete his lap.
His black and red Beefaroo Ford will go to the top of the leaderboard. Pretty strong lap there from Noah Gragson, 29.292 seconds, 167.882 miles per hour. So Noah Gragson takes his car to the top of the leaderboard, and that'll push Cole Custer back to second. And on the track right now, one of the more popular throwback paint schemes.
And one of the paint schemes that honors Dale Earnhardt and his 1979-1980 Rod Osterlund blue and yellow paint scheme. Austin halfway down the back straightaway to complete his qualifying lap as we go back to pit road and Steve Post.
Yes, indeed. Throwback weekend, it's the stories. And the stories of these paint schemes, and Todd Gilliland has a throwback story that impacts his race here at Darlington Raceway. Todd, your throwback is to Ray Fox. His great-grandson, Justin, is your tire changer on this race car. How neat is it to be able to tie in one of your guys here and tie them into this throwback?
Yeah, it's cool. We were kind of on the fence of what throwback we're going to do. And I just texted my whole team and was like, does anyone have any cool ideas? And Justin's been a good guy. He's really young and excited. So, we thought it was perfectly fitting. Obviously, a family that's been in the sport a long time, with Ray Fox being a big part, obviously the first generation that was in it. So I thought it was fitting too. 75 years of Darlington. This paint scheme goes way back as well. So it's fun. I love Darlington. We've got a decent Rudabush Ford, and we'll keep working.
I'm sure they will, that's for sure. The story of the Foxes is absolutely amazing. Ray Fox Jr., Raymond Fox III, longtime car chief, present car chief for Ryan Blaney. He was Todd Gordon's car chief, and I got to know Raymond when he was car chief for Fatback McSwain and Ricky Rudd back in the early 2000s, and then Justin, his son, the tire changer now here on the Todd Gilliland car. The stories of throwbacks, and this one is a 4-generation story here of the Ray Fox throwback, the number 34 car here for Todd Gilliland.
Just wonderful stories on Throwback Weekend here for the Goodyear 400. We are qualifying for the Goodyear 400. Austin Cindric has gone to position number 1. Josh Berry has qualified second currently. Then it's Noah Gregson, Cole Custer, and Riley Herbst rounding out the top 5 to this point. From Darlington Raceway, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Every hero's story has a humble beginning. Every legend had to earn their stripes. Every superstar had a dream.
It's been a fairy tale season.
Every home track is the start of something special.
That's just good old short track racing.
Oh, a little retaliation.
Holy cow!
Learn more about NASCAR regional tracks near you at NASCAR.com/regional.
Drivers, start your engines!
Your home for the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series.
Green flag goes in the air and we are underway.
On the NASCAR Racing Network.
2 by 2 by 2. They're about 10 rows deep of double wide racing. Taylor Gray to the bottom. Nick Sanchez outside, and they're crashing mid-pack.
It's the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series on the NASCAR Racing Network.
Back at Darlington as we get set to put our next car out on the racetrack for qualifying. Before we do that, back to Chris Wilner.
And chatting with Ryan Preece, who's had a heck of a run here. 3 straight top 10s. You come to Darlington, you got a beautiful-looking race car, and you just told me practice felt pretty good. Why?
It was comfortable. Yeah, this country Karak Ford Mustang is really good, and it's been helpful that Brad and Chris ran really well, and Brad won the race. So just being able to look at some of their notes and see what I can do better. So obviously getting behind Chris helped in practice, and hopefully qualifying has kind of been the hindrance for us, and I feel like I've done a lot of preparation for it. So hopefully we can go execute it and have a good starting spot for tomorrow.
We talk a lot, week in and week out about momentum and drivers. When they get on a roll, whether it's finishes or just the way they run, things seem to spark. Where is the vibe now with this 60 team, with Derek Finley? I think you guys are having a lot of fun, aren't you?
Oh, yeah. Derek is he's a national treasure when it comes to this team. And, I just feel like everybody, the whole organization is working together and really helping me. I think that's been super nice. So, yeah, just excited about qualifying coming up here.
He's going to try to keep it rolling. That's Ryan Preece getting ready to go.
Yes, a national treasure in Derek Finley. Our national treasure, Alex Hayden, watching Justin Haley exit turn 4.
I am, as he's going to see the checkered flag, and Justin Haley, good qualifying lap. He'll go to second on the leaderboard, as he is second of 11 drivers that have taken time so far. Austin Cindric continues to be the fastest out on the speedway. Next driver to go on the track is Brad Keselowski in his gold, black, and red Castrol Ford Mustang, the defending winner of the Goodyear 400.
John Hunter Nemechek is coming up, along with A.J. Allmendinger, Carson Hocevar, who was fastest in practice, Daniel Suarez, Austin Dillon, Alex Bowman, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and others on the way as well.
As Keselowski works his way down the Boeing backstretch here at Darlington, he'll set up for turn number 3. He takes his car right up against the outside wall where most everybody will be making their qualifying lap. That's where the speed is. Here comes Brad Keselowski to the checkered flag.
Checkered flag is waving for Brad at the start-finish line. He'll jump to second. 29.172 seconds, 168.573 miles an hour. Of course, that is just ahead of Justin Haley of Spire Motorsports, who's a teammate of Michael McDowell, who's with our Steve Post.
Michael McDowell down here has the Delaware Life sponsorship on the car. Michael, just looking at your numbers, sneaky good here at Darlington Raceway. Number of top 10s over the last 5 or 6 races down here. What's about this racetrack and you that have seemed to come to like each other over the last few years?
I think it's just managing the long runs and having to manage your tires a little bit. I feel like experience helps with that, and it's all about having fast race cars. So I feel like the Delaware Life Chevy was in the game. It's not perfect, but long run speed held on good. So we'll see what we can do here for one lap, but feel good about tomorrow. There's so much to this place that you have to just get right, and it's so easy to get wrong. But this is a big lap coming up, and hopefully we can execute it well.
Boy, so much can go wrong. No truer words have ever been spoken here at Darlington. That's Michael McDowell.
I think that is a statement that everybody who comes to Darlington Raceway to compete understands perfectly. It is so hard to put together a good lap at this tough racetrack, but so easy to mess up any lap at this racetrack.
Well, the thing that amazes me, Alex, is when you're making that judgment call, when you're coming to the green flag, and you are looking straight ahead at turn 1, how deep do you send it in there? How hard do you drive it in? And where's that line and where's that balance where you're trying to maximize as much speed as possible, but not put yourself and the race car in a bad spot?
A.J. Allmendinger goes to 4th on the leaderboard. John Hunter Nemechek 7th. On those same lines, the late, great NASCAR Hall of Famer Buddy Baker, he used to tell me all the time about going into what is now turn 1 after they flip-flop the track. Front stretch used to be on the backside and vice versa. So going into what is now turn number 1, he said you put the left side tires on or below the dotted white line of the racetrack. And as soon as the car catches, and Buddy's term was catches, you feel that with the seat of your pants, then you take all your courage and step and on the throttle as hard as you can and point the car to the outside wall to the very first billboard that you see and drive it flat out straight up to the wall where that is. Once you get to that first billboard, then you turn the car again. To listen to that sequence and the amount of courage it takes to do that, it really is mind-boggling.
That's why we're sitting here and they're sitting in those race cars down there. Carson Hocevar has just turned in the second fastest lap. We go back to Steve Post.
Well, Mike, I'm actually down here with Joey Logano. This ride is pretty cool. From one 3-time champion to another, he's got the Cale Yarborough colors. How special is this scheme for Darlington here, Joey?
It's definitely really cool, and the timing was just right as we came up for our 3rd championship to honor Cale at his home track. It's really special. Yeah, I got to go back to my rookie season, and Cale gave me a ride around this place in a 2-seater Cup car, and it was really cool to have Cale Yarborough drive around here, and I took some lessons from him. Hopefully I could put him to use today.
Let's talk about practice. I know the speed chart doesn't show it, but where do you guys feel like you need to work on the most?
Yeah, we struggled. The speed chart was probably right. We just got some work to do, but hopefully we can make some decent adjustments here to qualify well, and then we'll talk more about it tonight.
What changes in qualifying the way you approach the way to drive because it is one lap and you just have to throw everything at it?
Yeah, you attack hard. Race trim, you got to try to maintain a balance, but this is a sketchy lap, to say the least.
Appreciate it. Sketchy. That's always fun here at Darlington here, especially when we go qualifying.
Yeah, sketchy's a good word for it as they make their way around this racetrack, especially on a hot, sunny, slick day like we have right now. And by the way, Austin Dillon slipping and sliding his way to the number 6 spot in the qualifying order. 17 drivers have taken time right now. Alex Bowman is on the racetrack. He'll take the green flag and begin his qualifying effort.
Oh, and he just got the wall midway between turns 1 and 2. The car bobbling just a tad as he makes his way onto the back straightaway. Of course, Alex did not have the best of practice sessions earlier this afternoon, I should say. And picking up a Darlington stripe, he's back on the hammer coming out of turn number 4. Checker flag is waving for Alex Bowman at the start-finish line.
And he's honoring Jimmy Johnson's 2012 Southern 500 win, the 200th win for Hendrick Motorsports, and a mostly black race car with the white numbers and white lettering. And Alex Bowman hitting the wall in turn 1, slowing him down, and it shows on timing and scoring. 13th for Alex Bowman.
Chris Buescher's coming up. Ty Gibbs as well, along with Zane Smith, Ty Dillon, Kyle Busch, William Byron, and Todd Gilliland. But Ricky Stenhouse Jr. right now is on the racetrack.
Takes his bright orange Sunny D Chevrolet over to turns 1 and 2. The South Carolina sunshine dances off of that paint scheme as he rockets his way down the Boeing backstretch. Pretty good run for Stenhouse down the back straightaway. He's got to get through turns 3 and 4 cleanly.
Here he is, midway through the corner. He is back on the throttle, accelerating, coming off the corner to the waving of the checkered flag at the start-finish line. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. will jump to 10th with a 29.318 second lap. That's 167.733 miles an hour. Everyone right now is in hot pursuit of Austin Cindric and his lap of 169.877 miles per hour. From Darlington Raceway, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
NASCAR fans, the time is now to turn your love of racing into free tickets, merchandise, VIP experiences, and much, much more. Rack up fan rewards points by watching races at home, playing fantasy, completing challenges, and visiting tracks. Then redeem your points for epic prizes. You are in the driver's seat. What are you waiting for? Sign up for the free NASCAR Fan Rewards loyalty program today at NASCAR.com/fan-rewards.
The Tough Trucks of NASCAR, an exclusive podcast from the Motor Racing Network.
Ron Hornaday, green flag is in the air, and he will take the field quickly to turn 1.
Relive the moments of the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series from its debut in 1995.
Checkered flag in the air, Skinner wins with the inaugural for the NASCAR Truck Series by Craftsman.
The legends of the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series.
Todd Bodine wins 4 in a row on super speedways.
The Tough Trucks of NASCAR, available on podcast platforms and MRN.com.
Welcome back to Darlington Raceway. We continue with qualifying for the Goodyear 400 for the NASCAR Cup Series. Temperature right now, 86 degrees. And if you're curious to know, right now it is the 3rd hottest April 5th on record ever in Darlington, dating all the way back to 1902. Back to Steve Post.
Ryan Blaney down here leading up against his race car, a throwback to his father. 2006 Charlotte Motor Speedway Xfinity Series win. Ryan, first and foremost, we know how important family is to you. What does it mean to you to have another throwback to your dad?
Yeah, it's pretty neat. This is the second one we did. In 18 we did his old Jasper car from 03, and yeah, it's cool to have Dad's lone Busch win on this thing from Charlotte. I remember that night. It was really, really neat, and I always like seeing videos of that race. It's a crazy race. If anyone wants to go back and look at it, it was a wacky race. But, yeah, pretty neat and looks really good. So it's always, I'm pretty fortunate I can throw it back to some family members and definitely honor the old man a little bit.
That is really, really cool. I'm going to change pace here. I'm going to grab another guy that has a throwback. We talked about Raymond Fox. We talked about David Gilliland and Todd Gilliland that's having that throwback to your grandfather's car. Raymond, what's it mean to you to have a throwback to your grandfather's car?
It means everything. For them to choose that car, my grandfather's car, it's just a special moment for the Fox family.
Special moment indeed. How about that boy of yours changing tires? That's got to be pretty special as well.
Yeah, Justin's doing really good. He's really the one that was the key man to get that car going. So, yeah, I'm pretty proud of him.
Pretty proud indeed, as you should be. That is Raymond Fox. Raymond is a guy that had the look in his eyes when I spun and pointed the microphone at him. Raymond's not much for talking in microphones. He's more for wrenching and working on race cars. But that story's just too good. The Fox family, such a rich part of NASCAR history. And continuing on with Justin, Raymond's son, who is a tire changer for Todd Gilliland.
Truly remarkable and a great family story and legendary name in the sport of NASCAR racing, the Fox family. Austin Cindric continues to be the fastest so far in Goodyear 400 qualifying. Carson Hocevar, who was the fastest in practice, qualified second now. Chris Buescher just got his lap in. He'll go to third. Brad Keselowski is fourth, and Justin Haley rounds out the top five.
Ty Gibbs on the racetrack right now. Of course, he and his race team in the news this week. Cheddar Smith, the new car chief for Ty over at Joe Gibbs Racing, after being granted a release and shifted over from Spire Motorsports to JGR earlier this week. Ty Gibbs, Alex, up to position number 2 on the leaderboard.
Great lap for Ty Gibbs. He was second here at Darlington a year ago. You know, that's a team that is basically rebuilding. No, not Joe Gibbs Racing, but that team specific, the number 54 car, driven by Ty Gibbs. They shuffled people around, shuffled different crew members around, different mechanics around. You mentioned bringing Cheddar Smith in, who's won a Cup Series championship before as a car chief. To have that kind of expertise and to start putting and piecing together what they hope will be a playoff team and a potential run at a championship this year, it's got to start somewhere, and the building blocks are in place for that race team.
Here's Zane Smith out of turn 4. Checker flag in the air for Zane and his front row motorsports car. Wow. Zane goes up to position number 5 with a 29.008 second lap. Back to Chris.
Down here with Christopher Bell, who has a busy weekend, not one but 2 races, of course, leading with the NASCAR Xfinity Series. He won the pole in the first Rick Ferkel special in the Xfinity car. Can it translate to maybe doubling up here?
I think we've got a shot at it. All these Joe Gibbs Racing Camrys qualify really well at Darlington and race really well here, too. This is one of our better tracks. So it's a track position race here at Darlington. So this qualifying lap is super important. Going to lay it all on the line, that's for sure.
Steve Post talked about your relationship with the late Rick Ferkel. How special is it to have him on the car, especially honoring not one but 2 of his race cars?
Yeah, Throwback Weekend is just such a cool event, and you see all of these special paint schemes, but this one hits really, really close to home. So out of all of our throwback paint schemes that we've done so far, this one definitely means the most to me.
What's the challenge of qualifying here at Darlington? You just did race running. Now you got to go put it for one lap.
Yeah, I mean, the pace is just dramatically different. You know, we're racing, or the second Group B guys were at 30 flats, and now you're basically going to have to put it in the 28s if you want a shot at the poles. So it's a lot faster, but the tires have a lot more grip. It's pretty tough. I mean, it's really slick out there. Getting into turn 3, it's, you know, how hard do you want to drive it in, and then you got to pick up the wall. You want to get right to it, but not in it. So it's a fine line, but that's what makes this place so fun.
He was sideways in Xfinity qualifying. Christopher Bell going to try to double up here this afternoon.
He will be one of those drivers you got to keep a close eye on when it comes to qualifying and racing, for that matter. Kyle Busch, a good qualifying lap. He'll go to position number 2. So Austin Cindric still the fastest. Kyle Busch is now second quick. Ty Gibbs moved to third. Carson Hocevar is fourth. Chris Buescher is fifth. Currently the rest of the top 10. We'll see Zane Smith, Brad Keselowski, Justin Haley, A.J. Allmendinger, and Austin Dillon.
William Byron's on the racetrack right now. He is one of 9 different drivers to win in the last 9 races here, and he's a former pole sitter. Let's see what William does after some challenges in practice early on. Checker flag is waving at the start-finish line for William Byron of Hendrick Motorsports.
Top of the leaderboard, William Byron takes that Chevrolet. Byron, 28.774 seconds. 170.904 miles per hour, the average speed around this racetrack at Darlington Raceway. What a lap for Byron, and that'll be the new mark for everybody to shoot for.
Right now, Todd Gilliland enters the racetrack. Michael McDowell, Tyler Reddick, Ryan Blaney, Chase Briscoe coming up. Back to Steve Post.
Bubba Wallace down here walking alongside of that Columbia Camry that we talked about down here. Bubba, we talked to you about Darlington and momentum here. What'd you learn about your car here in practice this afternoon?
We were okay. We were just a little bit behind on the steering, so just need to iron some things out more on the driver's side than anything, but Oh, no, now it's qualifying, so you got to just forget about that and go lay a lap down. So we'll see how it goes.
Oh, it's easy. It's easy to said and done. Bubba Wallace getting ready to climb aboard this car to go out and put down that qualifying lap.
Todd Gilliland just put in a pretty good lap. He'll go to the number 5 spot on the leaderboard. So Gilliland, he's got a little speed in his race car here in qualifying. Michael McDowell is on the track. We heard from him just a moment ago. Got to see where he's at. He said his car's in the game, and he feels like the team is in the game. And when you show up at a racetrack, Mike, that's all you can ask for. Either really good, maybe a little bit off, but if you're in the game, that's quiet confidence.
And it's all in the driver's hands right now. Here he just scrapes the wall coming out of 4. Had a decent run going, but he made contact with the wall coming out of turn number 4. And even with the contact, that'll put Michael McDowell 4th fastest with a 28.972 second lap, 169.736 miles an hour. And everyone's chasing William Byron right now, the only driver to eclipse the 170-mile-an-hour mark.
Next on the racetrack in the McDonald's colors is Tyler Reddick. Set sail for turns 1 and 2. He's already got 1 pole position this season. Did it on a much different racetrack. Matter of fact, Circuit of the Americas, turning left and right. At that particular circuit, he won pole position. He's halfway down the Boeing backstretch right now, getting his qualifying lap complete.
Red hood and orange quarter panels, which feature lighter yellow circles, which would be the top of a sesame seed bun. A part of the McDonald's livery this weekend at Darlington. 3rd quickest for Tyler Reddick. 28.955, 169.836 miles an hour as Ryan Blaney pulls his Ford Mustang onto the racetrack. Of course, Ryan's had a lot of challenges here in the last month or so, trying to put those mechanical gremlins behind them and focus in on perhaps maybe taking a checkered flag tomorrow in the Goodyear 400.
Ryan Blaney with a throwback paint scheme on his Team Penske Ford. It's throwing back to his father, Dave Blaney, in his Xfinity Series win at Charlotte Motor Speedway back in 2006. So with Ryan Blaney, a little personal connection to the paint scheme now as he makes his way up off of turn number 4.
Highlighter yellow, blue with red numbers as he brings the car to the line. And we'll see where Ryan Blaney stacks up. He will be 5th quickest overall behind William Byron, Austin Cindric, Tyler Reddick, and Kyle Busch. A 28.958 second lap, 169.818 miles per hour. Still to come in qualifying, Chase Briscoe, Ryan Preece, Ross Chastain, Joey Logano, Bubba Wallace, Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, Christopher Bell, and Denny Hamlin. And then qualifying will be complete. From Darlington Raceway, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Jeff Gordon wins the Daytona 500.
Jeff Gordon's rise to one of NASCAR's all-time greatest drivers was one like no other. Relive Jeff Gordon's journey to the NASCAR Hall of Fame with the exclusive MRN podcast, Jeff Gordon, A Colorful Career. 93 Cup Series wins, 4 Cup Series championships, and 3 Daytona 500 wins. A career rivaled by few others. Check out MRN's Jeff Gordon, A Colorful Career on podcast platforms and MRN.com.
Get ready to rev your engines, NASCAR fans. The thrill, the speed, the action. You can now experience it all for free on the NASCAR channel on Tubi. All-day access to NASCAR action, streaming classic moments, iconic rivalries, and behind-the-scenes stories from the greatest drivers. Best of all, it's completely free. Stream anytime, anywhere on your favorite fast platform. No fees, no strings, just NASCAR. Find the NASCAR channel on your streaming device and start watching today. Back at Darlington Raceway, getting ready to button up qualifying for the Goodyear 400. The NASCAR Cup car is on track now. Later this afternoon, matter of fact, coming up at the top of the hour, we'll have coverage of the NASCAR Xfinity Series, Sport Clips, Haircuts, VFW Help a Hero 200. Our coverage coming up there as Christopher Bell will lead us to the green flag on that one, flanked by his Joe Gibbs Racing teammate, Brandon Jones. That Xfinity Series race, always fun and always fast. 147 laps. No time to tarry. Drop the hammer, get to the front, and you better not have a penalty late, because if that's the case, your day is done.
Yeah, and you better have a good handling car right off the bat, because realistically there may be 2 pit stops being made in that race, and that might be just about it, depending on how caution flags fly. But it is one of the quicker races on the schedule. 200 miles at the speeds they whip around this Darlington Raceway. That's one that will go by in a hurry, but it always is entertaining.
Next up on the racetrack, it'll be Chase Briscoe, and he leaves the pit lane right now. He and Denny Hamlin are the only drivers that finished in the top 10 1 year ago. In the case of Chase, he finished 5th in the spring, and of course, he won the Cookout Southern 500 last fall. A couple of Toyota teammates there trying to accomplish that feat the same way. Speaking of Denny Hamlin, back trackside to Chris.
He's got the Sports Clips colors on, honoring Carl Edwards. Denny, before you climb behind the wheel, how does practice translate to your qualifying run? Do you think you're good enough for a pole spot here today?
I think it'll be a challenge to get down to the time that the 24 ran there, but if we can put ourselves somewhere in the top, I'll be pretty happy with that. So just gotta give it what the car's got, keep it off the wall, and see what we got.
What makes you so confident at Darlington? All the laps, all the top 5s, the wins, just what is it about this place and Denny Hamlin?
Yeah, it's worn out. A lot of tire fall off, so the driver's got a lot of control of how he falls off in the long run, and I feel like I've got an edge there.
All right, appreciate it. Denny Hamlin going to go try and qualify up front with his Toyota. He is the last to qualify this afternoon.
He will sit patiently, wait this out as Chase Briscoe qualifies. His lap good enough for second fastest for Chase Briscoe. He clipses the 170-mile-an-hour mark as well, just behind William Byron, who continues to be the fastest. Up off turn number 4, Ryan Preece will take the green flag. On Throwback Weekend, Steve Post, when you walk up and down the pit lane and in and around the garage area, you run into not only NASCAR alumni, special guests, but you also run into NASCAR Hall of Famers.
No doubt about it, and we do have one of the NASCAR Hall of Famers down here. I know this may shock you. He's in the middle of telling a story, and I hate to interrupt the story because I'm sure it's a good one, but Donnie Ellison. Donnie, always good to see you. Got to be fun to come back to a racetrack all the time, isn't it?
Yes, it is, especially this one.
What is there about Darlington?
Darlington?
That's it.
What more can you say? Darlington?
Yeah, what's a special race or memory or something that stands out specifically about you other than just this place in general?
Well, I ran really good here. I just could not win. I run second, I run third, run fourth, but I just couldn't win a race here. And for whatever reason, I don't know. I led them all day, and something would happen, and I hit the wall or do something crazy. I just don't know.
Finally, what's it mean to have this throwback weekend and alumni weekend? I see you down here telling stories and everything. What's it mean that NASCAR rolls out the red carpet for you guys like this?
Well, that's what it's all about. The guys that helped build this sport, put it where it is today, where these guys can go make a lot of money and have a lot of fun, and the people can see some pretty good racing.
No doubt. Always good to see you, Donnie.
Thank you very much.
Donnie Ellison, on one side of his shoulder it says NASCAR Hall of Fame, on the other side it says the Alabama Gang. He's representing it all here at Darlington this afternoon.
And Donnie Ellison has created a lot of memories here at Darlington over the years. It's great to have Donnie and other NASCAR alumni members with us this weekend for Throwback Weekend. Ryan Preece has just turned in the second fastest lap at a 28.858. Ross Chastain has just turned in the 19th fastest lap. Joey Logano on track right now after challenges in practice earlier today. Let's see what kind of lap Joey will put up for the Goodyear 400.
Lacking just pure raw speed in practice, Joey Logano, mid-range, we'll call it here, in his qualifying effort. 14th for Joey Logano. Clearly, he and Paul Wolfe still have some work to do.
Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, Christopher Bell, and Denny Hamlin yet to qualify. Bubba Wallace is on the track, and he's just taken the green flag.
Bubba Wallace takes the Columbia Toyota over to turns 1 and 2. That car, the front half of it is purple. The back half of it is teal. It's a beautiful race car with pink numbers on it as it makes its way down the back chute into turn number 3. Bubba Wallace, another driver, much like Ryan Preece, is having some pretty solid finishes this year.
Takes a higher line entering turn number 3, keeps it up against the wall, just drops the hammer midway through the corner. Here he is across the line to put in the 4th fastest lap at a 28.895, 170.189. He now becomes the 4th driver to eclipse the 170-mile-an-hour mark.
And up next will be Kyle Larson. HendrickCars.com Chevrolet got the Tony the Tiger throwback paint scheme and nearly identical. Same number font, same number color, everything going back to Terry Labonte as he makes his way on the backstretch. He's already taken the green flag.
Deep blue with that bright orange livery on the HendrickCars.com paint scheme there this weekend. Of course, Tony the Tiger. Question is, will Kyle Larson's lap be great? We're about to find out as the checker flag is waving at the line.
And Kyle Larson, maybe not going to be thrilled with this lap. 16th for Kyle Larson here on the leaderboard after his teammate William Byron still is the fastest so far in Goodyear 400 qualifying. So Kyle Larson and Cliff Daniels going to have to put their heads together and see what kind of magic they can come up with.
Chase Elliott is on the racetrack with the UniFirst colors this weekend. It is a white, gray, and green colored car. He has taken the green flag. He's already off turn number 2 and headed up the Boeing backstretch to put in his lap of record for qualifying.
Throwing back this paint scheme to Kenny Schrader's 1994 Kodiak Chevrolet that led the most laps in that year's Southern 500 back in 1994. Chase Elliott, where do you end up, Mike?
Chase Elliott, 14th of the 36 cars to qualify. 29.001, 169.567 for Chase Elliott. Here's Christopher Bell on the racetrack. If C. Bell wins this pole position, he will have swept the poles at Darlington on a racing weekend. The first time since the fall of 1986 when Tim Richmond did it. He'll start on the pole for the NASCAR Xfinity Series race, and he's trying to win the pole for tomorrow's Goodyear 400. Here's C. Bell off the end of the back straightaway. He'll lead the car off the wall by about a half a lane, and now he is in the throttle, headed to the start-finish line in the checkered flag.
Christopher Bell, checkered flag out. Let's see where he slides in. He'll be all the way down in 16th. So Christopher Bell, not the speed he was hoping for. So William Byron, still the fastest. One car remains, and that is Denny Hamlin, given the fact that Toyota has won pole position here at Darlington the last 4 races. It's going to be up now to Denny Hamlin to try to keep that streak alive for Toyota Gazoo Racing. Right now, the Chevrolet of William Byron sets the mark to beat.
Toyota has won the pole the last 4 times we've been here at Darlington. Here's Denny. He's going to try to put a Toyota on the pole yet again. Through turns 3 and through turns 4. Here he comes off the corner. Checkered flag is waving at the start-finish line. Will Denny Hamlin win the pole for the Goodyear 400?
The answer to that is no. William Byron will win the pole for the Goodyear 400 as Denny Hamlin clocks in the 3rd fastest speed. Top 10 starters for the Goodyear 400. William Byron on the pole position. We'll hear from him in a moment. Ryan Preece will start 2nd. Denny Hamlin 3rd. Chase Briscoe 4th and Bubba Wallace 5th. Austin Cindric will be 6th. Tyler Reddick 7th. Kyle Busch 8th. Ryan Blaney 9th. And Michael McDowell 10th. From Darlington Raceway, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Hey guys, Corley Joy here. Make sure you catch Stag and Pennies on all the NASCAR platforms each week. We talk to some of our greatest drivers, winners, relevant stories. You never know who's going to show up.
Hall of Famers, everything, and you're going to get the best race highlights, the best content, the best scanner audio, the best reactions, and by far the best pit road breakdowns of any other podcast. Corey, where can they hear us?
You can find us on NASCAR on Tubi, SiriusXM Channel 90, wherever you find your podcasts, or on YouTube. Go check us out.
We are under the green flag.
Listen up, NASCAR fans. Now's the time to turn your love of racing into big-time prizes. Because NASCAR Fantasy Live is your fast lane to bragging rights.
Furious racing here.
Pick 5 drivers each week of the season. Then complete additional challenges to stack points. All for your shot at the grand prize.
So let's get this party started.
For official rules and to learn more, visit NASCAR.com/fantasy and sign up today.
Back at Darlington Raceway, qualifying for the Goodyear 400 is over, and Steve Post, William Byron's won pole.
170.914 miles per hour, William. Congratulations. How good was that lap? When did you know you had a good lap going, I guess?
I feel like I got off of 1 pretty good, and I feel like that's kind of set me up for a good lap, and I just was telling myself, okay, if I can parlay that into a pretty decent entry to 3 and kind of just stretch the lap. I think where I gave up was probably off of 4 a touch. Just felt like I maybe wasn't as aggressive there as I could have been, but just really proud of our group. They've done a great job preparing this week. We've had a great week. Everyone's really pulling the rope in the same direction, and just really proud of that.
What's your sense on this race car beyond this qualifying lap? You had some long-run practice today. What's your sense on that?
Yeah, I feel good about it. I think we made a stop there for a little adjustment, just trying to keep up with the racetrack and figure out what we needed for Sunday. So hopefully we can just have good long-run speed. That's always key here, but also being able to take off on the short runs and maintain your position, because it is difficult to pass here.
Final question for you here, the heat. It's pretty sunny here today, going to be really warm tomorrow. How do you prepare for this time of year and one of these first high-intensity, high-heat races?
It really just starts way back in the off-season, so just trying to make sure that your fitness levels are good, and throughout this week just hydrating and making sure that you're prepared for the heat. But, yeah, we've had maybe one race similar to this, Homestead, so not a complete shock, but it will be warm.
Wish you well.
Yeah, thank you.
William Byron, going to rest well tonight. He wins the pole position here in Darlington.
So William Byron becomes a 2-time pole winner here at the Darlington Raceway. Ryan Preece will start on the outside of the front row for the Goodyear 400. Motor Racing Network, NASCAR Live Race Day airtime, 2 p.m. Eastern Time here from the track Too Tough to Tame. Don't forget, coming up at the top of the hour, we'll have coverage of the NASCAR Xfinity Series for you. The Sport Clips, Haircuts, VFW Help a Hero 200. For Steve Post and Chris Wilner, alongside Alex Hayden, I'm Mike Bagley. We thank you so much for spending your early afternoon with us as we congratulate William Byron, pole winner for tomorrow's Goodyear 400 here at Darlington. So long, everybody.
Motor Racing Network's coverage of practice and pole qualifying for the Goodyear 400 has come to you from Darlington Raceway. Presented on MRN by E3 Spark Plugs. Powerful and fuel efficient. Find E3 at your nearest auto parts store. Our coverage has come to you under an exclusive radio license granted by Darlington Raceway to the Motor Racing Network, solely for the non-commercial use of our listening audience. Any use of the descriptions and accounts of this event without the express written permission of the Motor Racing Network is prohibited. Today's broadcast was directed by Julian Council, broadcast engineer Steve Fridley, studio engineer Andy Pachenik, audio engineer Craig Moore. The president of MRN is Chris Schwartz. Follow NASCAR every day at MRN.com. This broadcast was a production of the Motor Racing Network.